Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 338 of the news, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine, and to start off today, we have had both some good news and some bad news. Starting off with what happened at the very beginning of the first hour of this current day we're covering in the news. A brand new missile barrage was begun by the Russian armed forces from the territory of Russia. We also heard that there may have been a couple of cruise missiles directed from the area of Belarus, and also drones and cruise missiles fired from the Black Sea. These, of course, would end up hitting their targets. A small amount of them would, and right now the current death toll for this missile attack is around 11 dead, and we have not been able to ascertain an exact number on the wounded. That number is still being counted as we speak. However, one thing was heard that was incredibly impressive. Out of all of these missiles, a few of them, of course, we can see right here on film, which I'll show y'all. Here's one of those caliber missiles flying over, right there.
Jeez.
And out of all of the missiles that the Russians fired, an impressive whopping 47 cruise missiles were shot down over the past 24 hours. 47 of them, and this is coming from the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine's office, which is pretty much, I guess you could say, almost President Zelensky's office. It's, I believe, just one position below him. But 47 cruise missiles knocked out. A very impressive number, once again, a huge testament to Ukraine's air defenses. But probably the most impressive thing that we've seen, and it was mentioned in the title and the thumbnail, is that 24 Shahed drones were launched over the past 24 hours, most of them from the Black Sea, traveling over Odessa and Mykolaiv and on into the interior of Ukraine. Out of all of these Shaheds, none of them made it to their targets, and every single one of these 24 drones were shot down. The most
And beat a 100% success rate. That's pretty damn good.
You cannot, and this is the first time over the course of the entire war that the Ukrainians have been able to succeed in getting a 100% interception rate on any weapon that the Russians have used. This is the first time ever. This is showing something is occurring in the background. There's implementations of newer weapons or better training that's allowing Ukrainian forces to shoot these down with a 100% interception rate. We don't really know what the secret sauce is behind this, but we do know that it has incurred the proper results. A 100% interception rate, not a single Shahed slammed into a building filled with civilians. It didn't slam into any power infrastructure. None of that. None of them would see the light of day again. And so it's good to know that the Russians will have to largely stop using the Shaheds. Well, they'll probably still continue to try, because although the Ukrainians are now able to intercept them with a 100% success rate, this doesn't mean that the Russians will attempt to try and use the ones that they've already bought from the Iranians and at least see if they can hit at least something with the hundreds or 100 that they have left. So we're now going to be moving on from that little bit of news and on into our second bit, where we saw some Shahed hunting, to say the least. And we can see some of the air defenses that were utilized over the last night, I guess you could say, time frame to shoot down these Shaheds. A Dishka on a truck, so literally a technical, and a couple of guys with AKs were able to do a fairly good job in taking down some Shaheds. And of course, they're probably using other weapons elsewhere. They're probably using a massive arsenal of different kinds of weapons to find and shoot down these Shaheds, but still, the interception rate being 100% cannot be overstated. That is absolutely unbelievable. And fortunately enough, I have no videos to show to y'all today of a Shahed hitting its target. We're now going to be moving on from this little picture here and on out of the area. As long as, yeah, we have already covered everything in the Kyiv area about the missile interceptions and attacks. And we're now going to be moving out of Kyiv, as that was some of the more pressing news. We did not get any videos today of any of the missiles that did reach their targets hitting them. We do have a little bit of news down in Zaporizhia, however. We do have a picture of the aftermath where we saw that 3 were killed in Zaporizhia after a cruise missile slammed into a, let me make sure, let's see, energy facility in Zaporizhia. Had to make sure it was the energy facility, and we can see that the main building for that facility was hit here, and out of it 3 people unfortunately were killed. This means that this one building and the 3 people killed inside of it account for nearly a third of all of the civilian losses that the Ukrainians have suffered during this missile attack. Once again, incredibly unfortunate, and another clear indication and clear evidence of the Russians committing their terrorist attacks on civilian infrastructure and also the civilian population at large. We're now going to be moving on to Turkey's response to this matter, because the Turks, of course, do Turkish things, as we always cover on this channel, but they also support Ukraine. And we can see that, like previously, when the power ships were going to be sent to Ukraine, the Turks are now announcing that more Turkish power ships will be arriving in Ukraine and helping to supply the power grid that has been hit and slightly, moderately damaged over the past 24 hours. And we can see one of the brand new power ships that will be sent over very soon. It's somewhat smaller than the others, but it's good to know that the Turks are still providing this incredible asset to the Ukrainians, which is pretty much an immediate replenishment of lost power production while they try and get the grid back online. So great to know that the the Turks are helping out in this regard again, and really neat to see these power ships once more, because they're just a really neat, I guess you could say, kind of symbol of technology. We're now going to be moving out of Turkey and on into the rest of the world over. And of course, one thing that a lot of people always rat on is the Swiss, because a lot of people think that the Swiss should do a lot more, and due to them being a neutral country by their laws in their constitution, they are greatly limited on what they can and cannot do in terms of supporting Ukraine during this war. However, we did see them support in a way that they can, and it is quite a helpful way. We can see here that the Swiss support is not of guns and ammo, but of blankets and gloves, and we can see here that the Swiss army is delivering 170,000 gloves, 40,000 socks, and 2,000 blankets here in this shipment. And we can see it has donated by Switzerland all over it. And if we know anything about Swiss stuff, it ought to be pretty good. There ought to be like a little Toblerone chocolate bar in every box, maybe a Swiss watch, something similar. But still, it's great to know that the Swiss are helping out in the ways that they can, and hopefully in the future, we might see them supporting Ukraine militarily if they're capable of doing that. We don't really know if they will ever change their constitutional laws where they actually can support countries that are involved in wartime situations like Ukraine, but if they can, that will be very interesting. But in the meantime, we can see them delivering a massive amount of humanitarian aid, such as gloves and also socks and blankets. Pretty cool overall. We're now going to be moving on into Germany, because this video came out today and I thought it was fairly interesting. We can actually see some Leopards and Abrams training side by side at a tank range. And so here's the clip. Man, those things are beefy.
I'd say.
And with that, that's the end of the clip. But once again, really neat to see the Abrams and the Leopard on the same training fields being used. Speaking of tanks, we didn't get a lot of information about when the Germans will be sending their tanks, but we finally did get a clear window, at least from the British, publicly, as to when the Challenger 2s will arrive, and we heard that the 14 that they will be sending will be delivered in late March. This came as an official announcement from the British Ministry of Defense today, and from what we know, the Challenger 2s that will be provided are going to be of the Challenger 2 Theater Entry Standard variant. This means that it will come with the armor modification panels, well, I guess you could say the ERA tiles on the side of the tank, as you can see in this picture. I do not know if it will come with this camouflage and netting, but it is good to know that it will be coming with its complete armor package instead of being stripped down a little bit. Of course, the Challenger 2 that I'm speaking of is the one you'll probably see many pictures of, which is usually the Challenger 2s that are used in training. And these usually have most of their additional armor stripped off for one reason or another. But let me see if I can find you all a picture of one. Here we go. You can see that this one is devoid of the ERA tiles on the side. I believe there's some kind of a Dorchester armor, and that's usually how you see them. But from what we have heard and what we've been told, they will be sent over with a complete Theater Entry Standard package that was used in Iraq. So that's fairly good to know, and it also adds a decent amount of protection to the Challenger 2. And not only that, we've also gotten news today about what tanks the United States will be sending. And I'm really surprised by this, Matthew. They're not sending the M1A1.
Which one are they sending?
They are sending the full 9 yards M1A2s. They're sending pretty much the brand new ones. However, this does come with a caveat. They said that they will not be sending them with the modern depleted uranium armor inside of the turrets. They will have a conventional armor that's used for export, but they will still come complete in every other regard. The exact same sights, most likely the exact same ammunitions that the U.S. military uses that are up to date. So beyond the armor, this thing will be exactly identical. I do not know what kind of armor they equip inside of a Abrams turrets. In an export variant, I know it's not depleted uranium, but I don't know what kind of composite armor will now be put inside the turret cheeks now that the depleted uranium has been removed. But still, it is neat to know that they will be getting M1A2s, and about 31 of them. And so with that,
Is the depleted uranium armor, is that like classified, like how it's created, or is it just it's too like expensive to send to Ukraine?
I think we may be concerned about national security issues, and so we're not going to send them over, because one thing we know for certain is that any Iraqi or Egyptian M1 Abrams, and I'll pull one up, the Iraqi Abrams, these do not have depleted uranium armor. They are literally identical in terms of their appearance and their abilities beyond their armor protection, but in terms of the turret armor, which the front cheeks here, the front turret cheeks, this one right here, and then there's another one on the opposite side, they usually have this giant block of depleted uranium composite-like armor. The stuff's classified, so that may be the reason why we're not sending it, but at the same time, there are probably other things in the Abrams that will be sent over that are still classified, most likely like the sights or something similar. But still, it is neat to know that the Ukrainians will be getting any of them, and especially that they're getting the M1A2 Abrams, which is the most updated form of the Abrams that has been made over the years. Also, we can see another picture here of Iraqi M1 Abrams in a parade. Which is really weird looking, actually, with the Iraqi flags flying over. It's like,
yeah, it's really weird.
It's like an alternate reality where we supported the Iraqis instead of the Soviets supporting the Iraqis. But that's how it kind of turned out in a way. But still, moving on from that, it is great to know. It is wonderful to know that we will be supplying them with Abrams. I hope that they do incredibly well, and I hope that they prove themselves to be logistically easy to handle. I believe, in my opinion, and I'm going to stick with this, that if the Iraqis are able to support an Abrams with the devastated country that they've had over the Gulf War, and also the invasion of Iraq and the subsequent growth of ISIS and other terrorist cells within Iraq that had to be crushed, which has completely devastated the Iraqi economy and the populace, if they are able to support Abrams, anyone can, because they are being supported in very hostile conditions down there, probably with a large lack of supply lines, but they're still able to keep them running fairly well. So if they can do it, I think the Ukrainians can certainly do it with relative ease compared to what the Iraqis have done. And so with that, we're now moving on from that little bit of news, and we're now moving on up to our neighbor in Canada. And I've got to say, Matthew, for some reason, this little, the beginning part of this news segment, I felt has gone so smoothly, because each one is just moving from one to the other. But moving on up to our friend in Canada, we saw that the Canadian government today surprisingly announced that they'll be sending 4 of their Leopard 2s to Ukraine. We didn't get the exact details as to what variant the Canadians are sending. They just said the Leopard 2. We'll take a quick look at the Canadian Canadian tank forces. Let's see here. Tanks of Canada. Wow. I wonder if the Ukrainians will get that one.
That thing looks like it's made out of straight up like a iron or something. That thing is thick.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty weird tank. The Canadians kind of took a lot of like our basic designs and added on to them, and they got some weird stuff out of it. But anyway, scrolling on down, you can also see a little Matilda. No, that's Valentine right there. That's a British-made tank. More Rams. These things just look so weird. They're like wonky Shermans, and they kind of are, because they use the exact same chassis and suspension system. But anyways, we got to get onto the modern tanks all the way down here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, they helped with that. I forget that, though. We got to keep on moving. Let's see. They have Leopard 1s, Leopard C2s. Those are both Leopard 1s. And then they have the Leopard 2. But it doesn't tell us what kind of Leopard 2 the Canadians have. So let's pull up equipment of the Canadian Armed Forces. Canadian Army. All right, so now let's go to the list of equipment. This is scrolling on down. Oh, look. They got shotguns. Neat. The United States Army is the only, well, actually the U.S. military as a whole is the only nation in the world that issues shotguns as standard issue to certain roles in a squad, depending on what squad and what company that's a part of and what their mission is. But it's interesting to see that the Canadians also have shotguns. It's just that I don't think they standard issue them to certain roles and certain units, but we're going to keep on moving. And also, they've got, wow, that is a really nice ATV. And this also looks like it's in the U.S. Army. So, hey, we're going to keep on moving. And, okay, so now here we have it. They have Leopard 2 A6Ms. And they also have Leopard 2 A4Ms. And that is a wonky looking Leopard 2.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
It looked like it was like covered in mud at first, but it looks like maybe like leaves or something.
Let me pull up a Leopard 2 A4M real quick. Also, that's a really nice camouflage net that you see on it right there. It's like a giant plastic sheet that's had like little punch holes kind of perforated into it a little bit that gives it this weird look. But I have never really seen a Leopard 2 A4M. And it's like it has the armor of a Leopard 2 A5, but just barely. That is really interesting. I have never seen one of these things before. So it seems that there are 3 different kinds of Leopards that the Canadians could be sending. They could be sending a standard Leopard 2A4, the Leopard 2A4M, which is nearly a Leopard 2A5 in terms of armor protection, or the Leopard 2A6M. We found out that the Germans are sending nothing but Leopard 2A6s, so I wonder if the Canadians are following suit. They do have a larger number of 2A4s, however, so I feel like that will be the one they send. But once again, I could be wrong, and they could end up sending the Leopard 2A6 instead. If they do, that will be unbelievable and a massive contribution by the Canadians, considering that will account for nearly 20% of their entire Leopard 2A6 force in their country, but we have not gotten official information on that yet, so we'll just have to give it a little and try and get the details a little bit later on from Canada. But nice to know that the Canadians...
I'm telling you, the more I see the Leopard, like, the more I'm, like, just thinking the Leopard is more superior to the Abrams. That thing is just really well designed. Like, every time I see it, like, coming from Canada or Germany, I love it.
Oh, it's not a bad-looking tank at all, and I will admit, it is sleek. The lines on it are beautiful. It looks a lot better than an Abrams, but I still gotta be biased. I really like the Abrams because, unlike the Leopard, which has only been battle-tested once in Syria by the Turks, and it got itself handed to there, and a lot of people are starting to question, is the Leopard 2 really that good? The Abrams exceeded itself and his expectations in the Gulf War in Iraq. Although a decent amount of them still did get destroyed, they did fairly well. So I'm still a big fan of the Abrams. I'm sure the Leopard 2 is impressive and very capable, though, because it not only does it look good, we know that the Germans and almost a lot of other countries in the world swear by that tank, and it's the most exported Western tank in the entire NATO alliance. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from old Canada, and we're now moving all the way back over and into Ukraine, because now we've covered all of the international news, believe it or not, and now it's time for us to get on into our location unknowns. And we've had a couple of them today, and pretty much all of them have been incredibly interesting. So starting off with our first one, we saw a picture of a larger Ukrainian drone. It appeared to be some kind of an R-18 drone copter that had taken battle damage during flight. And so here's the clip.
Пташечка.
You can see right here that they're looking at it, the music in the background is playing, and we can see that some kind of a hole has been made in the top of the R-18, but we're not really sure from what. It doesn't appear that there's a lot more damage around it. There is a small hole, however, in one of the blades. And we can see him looking around it a little bit more. And once again, the large hole in the center. Man, that thing is beefy. Like, the batteries, it's so big, the batteries are just kind of sitting under it in a cradle. And it looks like it did take some damage, which is very interesting. Usually when a drone gets hit, it's usually lights out. Something gets hit that's critical. Either it is a entire supporting arm that gets knocked off, or it's a critical computer system inside the drone that gets shot and screwed over. But it looks like this one was able to survive and fly itself back. So really lucky for the Ukrainians, especially considering that this drone was very expensive just due to its size alone, and hopefully they can patch this thing up and get it flying the next day. We're now going to be moving on into the next bit of location unknown news, where we also saw a little kid doing his part in helping to distribute the humanitarian aid. This kid's got that bread. He got up and he's saying, let's get this bread, and he's handing it out to this lady who appears to be putting it on some shelves in the background.
Some wholesale bread right there. That bag is thick full of bread.
Man, that is literally like Santa's sack of bread right there.
Oh, іди сюди. Ідеш?
And man, they got nothing but bread back there. And they've already unloaded like 2 bags that size. They were sitting right there. Good lord, man. This place has got enough bread for days.
Це тобі. Шоколад. Скажи спасибо.
We see the kid getting some kind of a package. We're starting to see these little packages being handed out to kids a lot more recently. I don't know what they are, but if someone can provide an explanation as to what those little packages contain, that would be pretty cool to know, because we've seen them given out to kids over the past week fairly consistently. It seems to be a normal thing now. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from this clip, but you got to give credit to this little kid who's helping out with the distribution of humanitarian aid, because this kid, he has a very small understanding of the war and what it really encompasses, the kind of horrors that are going on the front line, and hopefully he doesn't understand what's going on, because I'd hate to know a kid as small as him really knows what war is about. But he is still only knowing probably what he knows, helping out, and that is a big deal, and I think that's really nice of that kid, and I'm sure that everyone around is really appreciating his contribution to the war effort. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little nice clip, and we're now going to be moving on into the next one, where we also saw a Ukrainian soldier receiving some gifts of his own.
Всередині, я так зрозумів, діти наготували ось. Така чудова. Не буду казати, але на тяжкому напрямку ми знаходимося. Зустрів хлопців, а вони мені передали ось такий.
See him opening up the little package. It's got a Ukrainian flag in it with a heart on it. It's got some gloves. Oh, well, actually socks. Sorry, those are socks.
Чудово, дуже дякую. Я дуже дякую за такі подарунки. Насправді, хто як не ви буде нам допомагати в такий час. Ми боремось за ваше майбутнє, а ви нам допомагаєте. Дуже дякую. Слава Україні!
Добрий день. Дякую організації Марлох і діткам, які зібрали ці прекрасні подаруночки. Зараз ми його розпакуємо, подивимось, що там. Інтрига в повітрі зависає, бо ніхто не знає. Це сюрприз. А тут приколюшки всякі, цукерочки, печиво, кава. Я бачу шампуньку.
Man, they packed this thing up. This is like luxurious.
Дякую. Любі солдати, дякую вам за те, що захищаєте нашу країну, за те, що ми можемо навчатися в школах, за те, що ми можемо спати в своїх домівках. Хай ангел-охоронець завжди охороняє вас. Повертайтесь додому. Перемога за нами.
I want a nice little letter too to top the whole
That guy
thing
looked
off.
like he might be about to tear up too, like after he read that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was a very sweet little letter from that kid, and hopefully that kid's letter is true, and that man will come back home just a-okay. And also, this call this kid like Mr. Daddy Warbucks or something, because this kid packed this thing thick. It had like the little waffle treats in there. It also had like just shampoo and stuff like that. That was a really nice little package that kid made and sent to him and wrote that little letter for. And I gotta say, huge props to the kid for also doing their part in the war effort and helping out with these little care packages. And also you can see that he really appreciates it a lot, because he's like, oh my god, he's like, shampoo! That was probably the thing he was most excited about, and hopefully he gets to use it here soon. And so with that...
Man, the kid might have a future in logistics packing like that.
Yeah, I mean, they might need him in the Ukrainian army. He needs to go to his local recruiting station and see if he can become a logistician, because he's definitely got a career there with the kind of luxuries he's providing to these soldiers at the front. Maybe he'll give them like that tea with hint of dragon fruit in it or something like that we saw the other day. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that nice little clip and on into our next one, where of course we got the numbers, we got the news of the Russian losses. So let's take a look and let's see what we got. Ooh, not a good day for Российской Федерации. Oh, it's looking terrible. Another BTG at least has been wiped out, around another 780 killed. 27 armored personnel carriers have been destroyed over the past 24 hours. That is incredibly high. That is another battalion tactical group worth of armored vehicles that have been destroyed. 19 supply trucks have also been destroyed. An entire 14 tanks have been destroyed. Probably some of the highest tank losses that we've seen over the past few months. 15 artillery systems have been wiped out. 6 drones have been wiped out. 2 MLRSs. 2 aircraft again today. The Russians are really starting to rack up the air losses again. They lost 2 yesterday. I think 1 the day before that. Now they've lost 2 today. So in total, they've lost 5 aircraft over the past 3 days. Really wild. And also, aircraft are some of the most expensive single pieces of equipment you will see anyone using in this war. And so the fact that they've lost 2 of them, If we went on the low end, each of those aircraft are most likely $30 to $35 million. At the high end, they're most likely $80 to $85 million apiece, and they just lost 2 of them in 24 hours. And they're still, at this point, irreplaceable due to the sanctions limiting what the Russian industrial ability is capable of. We also saw another helicopter shot down. Unfortunately, we have no idea what kind of helicopter this was that was shot down. If we did, we would be able to ascertain a price and how rare and how precious that loss was to the Russians and how badly it will be felt. But unfortunately, this could be anything in between. Also, wow, look at that, Matthew. It's actually calling out the first-time super chatters in the live
Hey,
chat.
yeah, it sure did.
Wow,
I was
that's
wondering
cool.
if that was something that was written by somebody, but I see it from YouTube.
Yeah, that's really cool. They've never done that before. So welcome,
Logan.
Welcome, Logan. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. And so a helicopter's been lost. And getting back to that, we don't know if that is an Mi-8, which is probably one of the cheaper variants of helicopter the Russians use, or it could be a Ka-52, which is the most expensive helicopter that the Russians use. It could be anywhere in between. Unfortunately, we have no idea. And of course, to hype Matthew up a little bit and keep him, of course, excited, a Bobcat skid steer has been destroyed. Yeah, baby!
Chugga, chugga.
Sugar, sugar. And it's great to know that another Bobcat skid steer has been destroyed. These things are precious to the Russians, and if they keep on losing them, before you know it, the Bobcat rip-off companies will close for good. And so it's nice to see. And also, another thing, Matthew, I was thinking about is, let's see, someone said... let's see. Dang, I can't find it. Someone was talking about the helicopter and aircraft losses, and I was trying to reread the question so I could make sure to answer it, but sadly that one's been lost to the live chat. Also, I have top chat on. I just noticed I need to put that on live. There we go. Alright, so, with that, do you have anything to add to this, Matthew? Because these losses, I gotta say, beyond the infantry losses, which are high but not the highest they've been, the vehicular losses have been juicy today.
Yeah, I have something to add. When a Russian Bobcat gets blown up, does it go to Bobcat Hell since it's Russian, or does it go to Bobcat Heaven?
That's a good question. I wonder, this is something that will require a great deal of pondering. If any of y'all have an answer to that question, let us know in the live chat. In fact,
It's going to Bobcat Hell.
it's going to Bobcat Hill, bleed. It's going to go to the vodka museum. It's going to be stuck in there forever. Oh, bleed. But anyways, with that, that's the Russian losses for the past 24 hours. Once again, incredibly high, and I'll show y'all why it has been incredibly high here in a minute. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on to our last bit of Location Unknown news, where we saw a parachute bomb being used in Ukraine by the Russians and hitting a target. We do not know where this was, but I believe this is one of the first videoed incidents of a parachute bomb being used.
Где?
You see it right up there. It's that small amount of pixels. You can hear it explode in the distance.
Кусок полетел от
You
нее.
hear something spiraling through the air. We can't see it. And now when you see the cloud forming from the explosion in the distance.
Короче, смотрим парашютики теперь.
We do not know what that hit, how many people may have been killed or injured in that bombing, but one thing that was fairly interesting is that this is the first instance of a parachute bomb ever being used in Ukraine that has been caught on video. I do not know how this was launched, whether it be by helicopter. If y'all do not know, helicopters in the Russian armed forces can actually drop parachute bombs and dumb bombs in general, or this could have been launched by aircraft. We're not really sure either way, but this is still the first recorded instance of such a thing happening. We're now going to be moving on from that. And before we move on, I'm actually going to show y'all this because this is something that a lot of people don't know. U.S. aircraft are not really made to carry dumb bombs. Well, U.S. helicopters aren't made to carry dumb bombs. And you'll never see an AH-64 Apache doing anything like that. Apaches are made to either carry Hydra rocket pods or Hellfires, and that's really about it. We don't really make them to carry much of anything else. You can see a picture of them right there. However, you can easily find pictures of an Mi-24 carrying bombs. And let me just pull up that picture right there. Let me go to images. And let me scroll through. Not an F-15. I'm looking for an Mi-24. There are pictures of it. I have seen the pictures before, and it is something that can be done. That is, I don't think that's a bomb. I think that's some kind of a pod. Let me check. Well, where the hell's the picture? Wait, hang on. Let me just put carrying Fab 250s, because I know they can carry that. Alright, so... Oh, wait a minute, yeah, I'm actually right. That is one of the dumb bombs the Mi-24 carries, apparently, because now all the pictures are coming up with similar bomb-shaped objects on the pylons. So, this is actually something a Russian helicopter is capable of doing, is dropping a parachute bomb. However, we didn't hear a helicopter in that video, and assuming that the fall time for a bomb like that would be relatively short after being dropped from a helicopter, we didn't hear one, so I'm highly certain that it was not an Mi-24 or any other kind of helicopter that dropped that. Also, Browntown said it's a fuel pod. It may be. I can't really find any pictures of these things carrying the Fab 250s or the Fab 500s. Which is kind of bizarre, because back in the day, that's what they used to say the Mi-24s would do in Afghanistan before we gave Stingers to the Mujahideen, is that the Russians would just start bombing villages with Mi-24s or aircraft in kind of like a combined arms kind of assault. But still, fairly interesting. I cannot find those pictures right off the top, but if you'll want to know what this thing is, let me just type in the Fab 250 bomb. And you can see a picture of the bomb that can be carried. It's these right here. More so the ones with the flat front on them. I don't know why some of them have this weird flat front as opposed to just a teardrop front. Kind of weird. But anyways, we're going to be moving on from this and on into our next bits of news. And so we're now moving on from our location unknowns and on into the northeastern area. And to quickly go over a frontline analysis in this area, there has not been any movement at all over the past 24 hours. There's been some slight readjustments of front lines on Deep State UA, but an actual frontline advance, there has been none. There is a bit of a reason for this. The Ukrainians and the Russians apparently were both hit somewhat heavily by the winter weather, and so neither of them have really dedicated any large offensive actions once the winter has set in. As y'all may remember, the Battle of Bachmut actually began about a month or two before the winter weather really set in. And so we saw that that offensive began, and it just continued on into the winter. We have not seen any offensives started by the Russians or the Ukrainians since the winter began. We have seen one, but it appears to be very small in its scope in the Volodar area, and that started about 3 days ago. But we'll be getting to that in a little bit and covering that, because we have video footage of the Russian forces getting obliterated there, most specifically their armored vehicles. But for those reasons, we have not seen any movement at all in this area. Will we see some in the future? Perhaps. I can't really crystal ball things, and I used to say that a lot. We don't really try to crystal ball a lot on this channel, because if we do, usually trying to predict what will happen in the future, it goes fairly wrong fairly quickly, and especially it goes a lot more wrong as time goes further and further away from where we are right now. So we usually don't try and do that, but I can say I'm fairly certain that there is potential in this area for a Ukrainian offensive to go fairly well. And so with that, I hope that does address that little frontline analysis of the Northeast real quick. And before we move on into this little bit of video footage we got from the Kremenna area of a BMPT Terminator actually operating on the front lines, let's go over some polls real quick, because some polls are talking about what can probably be facing the BMPT Terminator, such as some Abrams and Leopards. So let's go over those polls and let's see what y'all are thinking about what may be blasting away the Terminator here in about a month or two.
All right, so for our first question segment, we have 3 polls to address this time, and the poll that's currently running, which the enforcer just mentioned, says Leopard versus Abrams. Which would you choose as a better designed and more effective tank? Surprisingly, 48% said Abrams, 32% said Leopard, 4% said neither of the above, and 17% said unsure. Now, a little disclaimer, most of our viewers are American, so it's a little surprising that 48% chose Abrams, but kind of not really. But for me, I'm going to go with the Leopard. Typically, I would say most American equipment is preferable in my opinion. But on the tank, the Leopard, they got us beat on that design, I got to admit. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say that the Abrams is probably the better designed and more effective tank, but once again, that just really depends on the kind of conditions or the kind of abilities that a country is looking for. If you're the United States, where logistics is something that we've dominated in ever since the dawn of time, and we have an unlimited money pool to throw at really anything we need to, the Abrams is the perfect fit for us. The jet turbine engine can work on practically any kind of fuel. It does require a little bit of extra maintenance, but it does get an extra amount of performance out of that jet turbine engine. For that reason, it does produce more horsepower than the diesel, at least the diesel in the Leopard 2. So for those reasons, from a U.S. perspective, the Abrams is the best. We wouldn't really need to get a Leopard because a Leopard, in concerns to a diesel engine, is a little more cost-effective and easier to maintain. But what does that matter to the United States when we can make a technician for an Abrams in a short matter of time? It may be a little bit more expensive, but it does pay off in the end, and we don't really have to worry about cost all that much. So for us, the Abrams is great, but for other countries, like a country that is wanting to have an easier tank to repair and run, and their logistics are not, I guess you could say, as fleshed out or overdone as the United States, the Leopard 2 would be the best pick in that arena, just due to the engine repair and maintenance and so on. So it really depends on what you're needing it for. There's really no such thing as a superior tank design. There's really, well, there is. I mean, like, Western tanks by far dominate over Eastern European tanks like the T-72, but there really is no such thing as a tank that can be used by anyone that's just far better, because a Leopard 2 probably wouldn't work according to U.S. doctrine and logistics. So it probably cause a decent amount of problems in the U.S. military to implement a Leopard, and that's why we continue to use the Abrams, and phasing over to a new tank takes time, and it also takes a decent amount of training and a decent amount of effort. So with that, I hope that does address the poll fairly well. That was actually a really interesting poll, and it was very wild to see that so many people were big fans of the Abrams as well. I kind of thought I'd be alone in that category. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And the next poll says Zelenskyy again calls for more Western weapons after the latest Russian missile strikes. What are your thoughts? It looks like 58% said they do need even more weapons. 19% said, it's a little premature, but understandable. 5% said unsure, and 18% said that was too early. Wait for current delivery. Now, on this one, I got to say that I understand why Zelenskyy is asking for more equipment. But I think it was a little too premature, especially after the commitments were just made. A lot of work was put into trying to get the Germans to actually send the Leopards, and also the USA to actually commit to sending Abrams. So I think it was a little too early to call for it. So I'm going to go with the 19% that said it's a little premature. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would say that it's not that premature. I believe that we ought to just try and get as much support in there as possible. The more support we can get them that is usable, and that's the key word, usable. There's no point in sending them 1,000 tanks if they only have enough crews and they can only train enough crews potentially to operate 250 tanks. We don't need to send 1,000, we just need to send 250. But we could certainly try and pressure the Germans, now that they are sending tanks, to send more. I still think that for the Ukrainians' concerns, the Leopard 2 is by far the superior tank of the two, and so we ought to see about getting the Germans to already announce new and upcoming packages where more will be sent. That's just my opinion, though. I think that that would be the best thing to do. And also, Landlubber said they want F-16s. Doesn't everyone want an F-16? I would want an F-16.
Of course.
The F-16, and just to go over that again real quick, the F-16 is a beast of an aircraft. It's a multi-role aircraft, especially the newer block variants like the F-16s and F-16C and beyond. These things can carry air ordnance, ground ordnance, and anything in between. You can even mix it up and get some air ordnance and ground ordnance onto the exact same aircraft. So all in all, it's a great aircraft, and of course, I think that this thing would outperform an A-10 in these kinds of battlefield conditions by leaps and bounds. It wouldn't even be close. The F-16 would be the best pick for the field. So there's still a little bit of a question there, because that's a red line that we still have not crossed that the Russians have made. We don't know what would happen if we did cross that red line. I'm expecting nothing. I think that nothing really would occur if we did send F-16s to Ukraine, and maybe we should look into trying to send some of those here in the future. There's a lot of countries that also use the F-16 as well. If I can get a map here, and let me see if I can. Here's the current operators in blue with the former operators in red. So let's just go through the list. So we've got the United States, we've got Colombia, we've got Panama, Chile, we've got Morocco, that also includes the Western Sahara, Portugal, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Poland, Romania, Turkey, and Greece. We also have Iraq, Jordan, Israel, Egypt, let me make sure because I always get Oman. It is Oman. I was about to say Oman, but I always get confused in between Oman and Yemen. We got Oman, the UAE, Pakistan, South Korea, Taiwan. We also have Thailand, and we also have Indonesia, and those are all of the countries in the world that currently operate a form or variant of the F-16. This thing is all over the world, and even if the United States didn't really want to send theirs off the bat, we could always tell these guys over here, any country that is supporting Ukraine that has their own F-16s like Romania or Poland, send yours in and we'll send you replacements that are brand new. We could always do that, and that would probably work. The Polish could send some of their older, aging, still effective F-16s into Ukraine, and they would get brand new ones in replacement by the United States. A win-win for everyone, because the Ukrainians get F-16s, the Polish get brand new ones, or the Romanians, either way. So, in my opinion, if they're talking about that kind of support, which has not been sent, I would say definitely. If it's talking about more tanks, I see where they're coming from. In my opinion, it is a little too early to be asking for that. Let's see how the current package does, and then ask for more and see how well the Ukrainians are able to maintain and operate these tanks, and then send more after that. But I still see where they're coming from, and I think we should send them more supplies and more equipment in every regard as quickly as possible. And so with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well, and I think we have one more, and if not, what do we got?
So we do have one more, and this one says, should the USA place priority on national security concerns over sending the most advanced weapons to Ukraine? And this kind of ties into the depleted uranium armor that we were talking about earlier. It looks like 52% said yes, we must prioritize NATO security, 4% said unsure, 26% said it depends case by case, and 18% said no, send everything we have to Ukraine. Now, on this one, I am definitely going with the first option, which is prioritizing NATO security, because without NATO, we can send all the support we want to Ukraine, but if NATO falls apart, we're in some serious trouble. So we definitely have to consider our national security first, and send Ukraine everything we can. If we can remove like some crucial components from the vehicles that are national security related and send like some of the equipment anyway, I would be in favor of that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it's definitely not smart to send over, in my opinion, and I'll explain why. It's not smart, in my opinion, to send over things that may have secret equipment inside of them, because if we're going to say that, let's just say we send over an F-35, a brand new aircraft, it's the best of its kind in the world. We send that thing over and boom, for some reason, it gets captured by the Russians for one reason or another, or one of these somehow gets shot down over Russian-occupied territory. It falls largely intact, and now the Russians can get a really good look at the stealth coating we use in this aircraft, also the internal workings of it. That kind of stuff is scary. If y'all don't remember, an F-35 actually fell off the front of one of our aircraft carriers in the South China Sea, and then, for some reason, a seaman on board that aircraft carrier took a picture of the F-35 sitting in the water by the carrier, and the People's Liberation Army Navy set off ships immediately into the South China Sea to go and try and find that thing, because it's in international waters, and if you can find anything in international waters, you can keep it by international law. So this created a whole freak-out ordeal for the U.S. Navy, because we had to send ships out there to try and recover this thing as quickly as possible before the Chinese arrived, and luckily we did. But we don't want those kinds of things and that kind of information and technology possibly falling into the wrong hands. This is the reason why the United States spends around $700 billion a year, is so that way we actually have this cutting edge and advantage over our opponents. And while it's great as an idea to hand these over to countries that we support, it's not a good idea in the long run, because these things can get captured and we will be screwed over. We will have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in regards to the F-35 program to end up losing it all just because one of them got shot down in Ukraine. And that is not worth that kind of risk, because we will put NATO at an inherent disadvantage, especially if the Russians and the Chinese partner up in the future, because with Chinese economic power and industrial ability paired with the Russians' lust for war and blood, you will see that they will probably try and make ripoffs of this thing fairly quickly if they ever get enough information on it. So I think that we should make sure that NATO security comes first, but always support Ukraine. So send older stuff that isn't compromising national security, but still up to date to where it's beating the Russians out by nearly a decade in terms of technology. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And I think you said that was the last one.
That was the last one. But before we move on to our questions, I have a poll that wasn't run, but let me ask you right now. Should we send the A-10? Start the firestorm.
Oh man, you're gonna
I see a bunch of folks asking about the A-10. Personally, me, I think it would probably be effective if the right strategies are used. It is a little slow, and it's, I guess, limited in capability to what it can be used for. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of a twisted thing for me. I say send it, but at the same time, I know there's limitations. But Enforcer, what do you think?
I would say the A-10, of course, can operate well under certain conditions. These conditions, though, can't really be guaranteed in Ukraine. And if you look at an A-10, there's a lot that goes into supporting these things. This is kind of starting to fall into the area, in my opinion, of why don't we send an AC-130 gunship to Ukraine? And if y'all know anything about them, these things are barely even hanging on in U.S. service right now because they are so vulnerable to ground fire that we can't really operate them anywhere unless we have complete air superiority. The air, I guess you could say, the enemies on the ground cannot have any kind of anti-aircraft guns or weaponry, and that's the only conditions that this thing can fly under. And even then, it has to fly under the cover of night, so that way they can't see it, because small arms are a thing, and they could try and shoot those up there, and they could possibly start hitting the C-130. So this is starting to get into that avenue, in my opinion, because the A-10 can only travel at around 350 to 400 miles per hour as a normal going speed. That is as slow as the maximum speed, well, of some of the fastest World War II prop aircraft. So that is getting down to a dangerous area, because anyone with an AK could just start spraying up into the sky, and they could start getting really close to hitting the cockpit of the A-10. And now, and some people are going to say, but it has the titanium bathtub. Y'all are right, but the titanium bathtub doesn't protect this part of the cockpit. And they also have armored glass on the front of the cockpit as well. But if this thing is flying at a parallel angle to the infantryman firing at it on the ground, there is the chance that a stray bullet could go into the cockpit and kill the pilot, if it's close enough. And A-10s, if you're using the gun alone, have to get close enough. Now, there is a counter to that. The A-10 carries a lot of, I guess you say, suspended weaponry. It has 11 hard points. That is also true. And it can carry really anything. It can carry Mavericks, it can carry dumb bombs, it can carry smart bombs. Smart bombs require altitude. That means that the A-10 has to climb, it has to get up in the air several thousand feet. AA targets that thing, fires a missile at it, it's down immediately because there's no way to protect it from ground fire. We can't send all of the things we would normally use in conjunction with an A-10 because some of those things are still a national security secret, and we can't send them for that reason. So this thing would be entirely on its own, and due to its slow speed and also it not really being able to evade much of anything well anymore, it will be shot down. So that is a little bit scary in that regard. But I will give it this. If it was somehow supported and if it was used under the proper kind of battlefield conditions, this thing would dish out damage. There's no question about it. That's why the A-10 is still in service in the U.S. military to this day. It is a heavy-hitting vehicle. But it's not going to be that heavy-hitting with Ukraine. Because, of course, you got to remember, the U.S. has an unlimited military budget. We have one of the largest air forces and the largest ground armies in the world with some of the most advanced equipment and tech, and we have to use all of that advanced equipment and tech to support the A-10 in its missions. The Ukrainians have none of that. They will only get the A-10 in that end of the piece of the puzzle without everything else to support it. And so it would be fairly difficult to keep these things going and alive, but I have a feeling that the Ukrainians could find a way to use these things. It's just that it would be very dangerous to do it, in my opinion. And so with that...
All right, so real quick before we move on, let's see what the audience said. The question in the poll is, would it be worthwhile to send the A-10 to Ukraine? 58%, which is the majority, said yes. 31% said no, and 12% said unsure. I'm still in the unsure camp, but I did see someone bring up a good point. If the A-10s are like barely holding on in our military right now and our supplies, and we basically like want to get rid of them to a certain extent, why not send one or two to Ukraine and see what they can do with them?
It's a good question, but it's kind of a thing of, do we really just want to send something that's going to get pilots killed? Because these things, during the Gulf War, these things got shot down, and while some pilots would be able to eject and survive, a decent amount of A-10 pilots would go down with the ship and get killed with the A-10 once it was shot down. So it's like, do we really want to send them what may potentially become a death trap for priceless pilots right now, or do we want to send them something like an F-16, which could do far better than the A-10 in all the same regards? Close air support is something that the F-16 was made to do along with the A-10. It's just that it wasn't really exactly built around that mission. It was built to be multi-role.
Maybe so. I'm still a little twisted on it, but I'd love to see what one could do in there. If it could be effective, I say send as many as we can spare to them.
I would say sending two is a good idea. It's just that I really pray for the pilots that will take this thing into the skies, because I hope that I'm not right and they get shot down by an S-300 or something similar, because I feel like it would happen under those kinds of conditions. And so with that, and then of course, Matthew, I'm trying to explain it can do well. However, here is the limitations. And then Dallas Barikua 21C says, just say you hate it and be done with it. I don't hate it. I don't have a hate for really any vehicle that the U.S. uses. They're all really good. It's just that this thing has inherent limitations, and I'm not going to sit here and say that sunshine and roses when this vehicle is fairly dated, and the U.S. military currently knows it, and we have to pretty much mobilize the entire U.S. Air Force and every supporting aircraft we have to keep this thing safe. So with that,
I think the A-10 is about as like sacred as the Mira was to Ukraine. Like that's what the A-10 is to America.
well, yeah, I mean, it's a cool plane. It looks cool. It's also got an interesting record behind it. But I highly recommend y'all go and watch videos on the A-10 around YouTube, because there's a lot of people, for example, a channel called Laserpig, that has done a lot of in-depth research and actually has Department of Defense articles and documents about the A-10 that shows that its reputation may not be as well-deserved as it has been. This is not the ground-killing, tank-busting aircraft that everyone imagines, and the Department of Defense knows that and has put that out in reports before. So with that, we're going to be moving on into the next poll. Matthew actually threw that one up on the spot, but I think we've addressed that one fairly well. The firestorm will continue in the live chat. People will end up being the unfortunate victim of A-10 homicide, but with that, it's time for us to get on into the questions. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, and first up, we have a $25 super chat from Mark Tremblay, who says, did you hear that Estonia will be sending all the howitzers that their military has?
Really? No, I did not hear that. And I thank you so much for the support, but that is really interesting to hear. And if that is true, I would be really blown away. Let's pull up the equipment of the Estonian military. Equipment of Estonian Army. Let's take a look at this. Wow, they have every kind of small armament. M14s? Wow, that's like...
Wow.
It's kind of wild.
I admire countries that have a limited supply compared to the United States, and they send literally everything they have. To me, that's the ultimate commitment.
That really is the ultimate commitment. Also, what's cool about this, and not really that shocking, is that the U.S. Navy still uses M14s, so it's not that crazy. But still, I was really kind of blown away to see that. Wow, they literally have every kind of small arm. I know we're not here for that, but I'm really blown away and really impressed by this. They have the M14. Anything else weird that they have? They have the MG4 and the MG3. They also have the KSP-58, which is a Swedish machine gun. That's actually not that bad looking. It looks kind of nice. Dang, they have almost everything. But let's get on down into the tanks. Oh, the artillery, actually. Let me go back to the artillery. So, they have the M252, the M41D. They also have the K9 Thunders, which are a South Korean SPG. That is so weird. That is wild.
That is weird.
Like, Estonia out of everyone. Yes, I would like the South Korean SPGs, please. Like, don't you understand that those are, like, around the... anyways, that is
weird. They have very exotic taste.
Yeah, they went to the, like, Ferrari dealership of the military world, like an arms expo, and like, we would like your most exotic SPG, please. we have the Korean K9 Thunder. We'll take them. If they're sending those, I'd be really blown away. And, of course, they have... no HIMARS. They actually have none, but they have 6 of them ordered, and they're planned to be delivered to Estonia in 2024. So those are coming in the future. Let's take a look at, is that the only artillery systems they have? Because I swear that they used to have M777s on this list, and maybe that's why they've been taken off, is because they've sent all of them. And wow, they really do have some pretty nice radars as well. They have the AN-TPS-77s, the Giraffes from Sweden. They also have the Viras from the Czech Republic, only one. And then they also have the Groundmaster 403 from France. And that thing does look like it's a master of the ground right there. That thing's got a radar dish big enough that you can play table tennis. Well, hell, real tennis on it if you flip that thing like flat.
Yeah.
But still... I thank you so much once again for the support and sharing that little tidbit with us, because I think you are right. I think they have sent all of their proper howitzers to Ukraine, and that's why they've been removed from the Wikipedia page, because I remember the Estonians did have M777s on their page before, and now they're gone. So now they're just down to their exotic K9 Thunders and also their Swedish and American mortars, or British American and Finland mortars, or Sweden mortars, but still really neat overall. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Y'all are the folks who help this channel to keep on turning and burning each and every day. And I gotta thank y'all so much for the support, and I hope we were able to address that interesting tidbit fairly well. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Chris Mack, who says, "You guys are awesome. Tanks." And thank you as well, Chris. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Chris Mack, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Y'all are great because y'all have been helping us to run these fundraisers every single Sunday and also keep these streams running. And I've got to give all the credit to y'all because it wouldn't have been possible for us to have been here so long if it wasn't for y'all. Because we wouldn't have been able to keep things running behind the scenes, and y'all's support is helping this channel to keep on rolling. Of course, it's not everything. We just love to know that people do watch and enjoy this channel, but the support does help us to stay alive in the background, and that, I cannot understate, is incredibly important. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Chris Mack, and y'all rock. Every single one of y'all in the Lee Spring Army. And so, to make Matthew's life just a little bit more difficult tonight, if you agree with me, put LSA in the chat. And so,
oh yeah, do that, please.
Oh yeah, do that, Governor. Hey, so with that, I think we're on to the final one of this segment, and then we'll be getting back into the news.
And yes, this will be the final one of the segment. This one goes to Raphael Schneeves, who puts in a $20 donation and says, "It depends if a Bobcat was drafted or joined because of propaganda." And I'm assuming this is in reference to the Bobcat hell or heaven question. Raphael says, "I don't think it's culpable for what the Russians do unless it insists in war crimes with full knowledge and consent. It's more likely it will go to purgatory." Now, Raphael, that's a very, very good analysis right here of that question. I gotta admit, that sounds like a really good, like, lawyer-esque argument. I like that.
Matthew, when that super chat popped up, you just heard, "This comes from the Holy Vatican." And he started reading it off. If it was conscripted, it does not go to hell. If it was volunteer, it goes to hell. It's the Pope is like reading it off of the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, like reading this off to all the people in like the little square. Also, something interesting I was reading about a little while ago, Matthew, and this was really cool to me, is that back in the day there was a pope that only existed for 5 years, and he actually planned out in great detail the future of how Rome would be built, and he actually made the important parts of Rome, like I guess you could say like the important squares and centers that Rome would build around in the future from the Renaissance era. He would erect giant obelisks inside of each one, and you can see one here at the Vatican right here. You can see the obelisk of St. Peter's Basilica, and I'll drop down here to show it to you. Where is it? There it is. That's the obelisk in 480p. And that was the most important obelisk in Rome. And then there's another second large one up here in the Piazza del Popolo, which is right here. And this was also another major square. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is actually a proper Egyptian obelisk as well.
It's like they took it from Egypt?
I think so. If I remember the story correctly, they did. And they put these things around Rome wherever the city was supposed to be built and wherever there was a major center. So anywhere in Rome where like there is a major point in the city, there is almost always an obelisk there just due to its design.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, really.
How do you know that?
I just know. I just know a little bit of everything. And that's like one of the cool things about Rome. And if I remember correctly, and let me check this real quick. If I remember the story right, at the end of every street, there should a major street, there should be some kind of a feature or an obelisk. And down there, look, obelisk right there. There's an obelisk at the end of this street. It ends with a sight line and an obelisk, just like they say. And then if we turn around and look the other way, there is an end to the sight line, but I don't see the obelisk down there. Let me hop over here. Oh, this just threw me down like a side street. But anyways, there should have been an obelisk. You can see it right there. It's right there. It's a little stairway, and it has a obelisk somewhere right here, actually. And then down at the other...
I'm just waiting for the conspiracy theories to pop up in the chat about this.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just waiting.
I know there will be one, but But it's really neat. It's really cool. And Italian history, especially in Rome, all the way from the collapse of the Roman Empire, and I guess you could say the fall of Rome around 520 AD, all the way up till the present day. It is really, really cool. It's really interesting. But anyways, we're going to be moving on because that's not what anyone's here for. Y'all are here for the war, and I'm going down a rabbit hole about how Rome has obelisks. But anyways, with that, we are going to be moving on into
The news.
the next the news. Yeah, I'm right, the news. And so I got to thank you so much once again for the support and allowing us to talk about Bobcat Purgatory and Bobcat Hell and Heaven. And I think you are correct, and I think that's about the best description we have as to where those little Bobcat skid steers will go. If they were conscripted, Purgatory. If they were volunteers, they go to Hell. I don't think any of them get to heaven, though. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little neat bit of news, or the little rabbit hole I had. I hope you all found it neat. And we're now going to be moving on into Kremenna, because today we got footage of a BMPT Terminator in action again. The last time we saw these things in use was around the battles of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Now in the area of Kremenna, we once again see BMPT Terminators in action.
Давай, детка, работай.
Okay, that really took me by surprise. I thought Matthew was doing his, like, damn son, where'd you find this thing?
That sounded like me.
Yeah. But we can see it right here, and I'm going to have to turn this down because it's so loud on my end, I can hardly hear anything. Now I'm going to have to mute it because they're playing Battlefield 4 music. And we can see the BMPT Terminator sitting there looking around, and now it's firing off its guns at a really close range.
Right now in the video, finish him.
Well, I'd be damned. I never realized this, but the trees serve as a great deflector for 30mm shells. Almost all of the shells are not making it that far because they're hitting trees and they're just going flying off into every direction. Like, look at that. None of them are flying in a straight line. They're going everywhere but in a straight line.
That is a mad rate of fire, too.
Yeah, it's actually two 30mm guns that are on the BMP-2, so it's like having the firepower of two BMP-2s in a single turret. It looks impressive, but when you really get down to how effective that is, it's marginally effective over a normal BMP-2. We now see it driving off. We now see it firing again at night. If you're an epileptic person, you might want to watch out on this clip because it might give you a seizure.
Welders are having a fit right now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God. Wow, that's getting a little too bright for me.
That's a little bit too much for me, too.
Dang, well, luckily the video ended right there, but there's a BMPT Terminator in action. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't think that thing really was in action, because if it was, why was it so quiet at the start of the film? They're firing like 50 yards in front of the thing, and there was no firefight even going on, and it showed its side. It probably would have been hit. The whole thing is a little questionable to me. It probably is in the Kremenna area, but still, they're just sitting around really doing nothing but stuff for the propaganda flick. And also, speaking of which, there's been no frontline change again in the area of Kremenna. And if we look at this area over the past 24 hours, no change. There's been one small move down here. No Man's Land has increased in size around the Bielorivka area, but that's nothing of major consideration or note. And so with that, it's now time to move on from this area in Kremenna and on further down into the Seversk area, where we saw the Ukrainian peons in action. Of course, this isn't an insult. Peon is actually the name of this artillery piece, and it's named after a peony, which is a flower. So, here's the video.
Завдання було прикрити Гостомель, Жуляни, Бориспіль і Васильківка. Вночі там 2 круга навколо Броварів, потім ближче до Києва, потім зайняти позицію, яка потребувала прикриття Гостомеля. І дійшли до Києва, де в Києві там забудова.
Це ви на піонах просувалися, так?
Так.
Прямо на них? Чи вас везли на лафетах?
Прямо на них, прямо своїм ходом. Одна батарея пішла на правий берег, а 2 батареї...
Look at that. It's so weird. In some places of Ukraine, I swear it looks like the Midwest of the United States. That looks a lot like Wyoming or Colorado in some places.
It just naturally looks like this. It hasn't been, like, leveled or anything.
No, this is how it just naturally looks. It's just giant rolling flat plains with small little hills over most of the country.
Yes, definitely weird. You don't expect to see that in Ukraine.
No, you don't really expect to see that at all in Europe. You like, I always imagine like England when we went over there, or Wales for that matter, where it's like hills all over. They always call like them like gentle rolling hills, but when you get over there, they're actually pretty sizable and they're never ending. It's just nothing but hills. But in Ukraine, it can just be flat for endless miles. It's really weird when you see that and you get to see it in a video like this. You're like, dang, that looks a lot like the United States in some places that we call flat, like Kansas.
Залишились на лівому, ми вийшли на така галявинка заболочена між Троєщиною і ТЕЦ. Подивилися, начебто рівна галявинка, вийшли туди, розвернулися і майже одразу почали працювати. Після перших пострілів десь за півгодини приїхала поліція, каже, десь щось тут вибухає. Бабах, постріл. Вони, ми все зрозуміли, і поїхав. Ми на Київщині були до кінця квітня. Одна батарея у нас з початку квітня своїм ходом пішла за відступаючим противником в сторону Сум, дійшла до Сум своїм ходом. Після цього перейшли на Харків, потім ми решта, одну батарею залишили на Київщині, переїхали на Харків, деблокували Харків, потім повернулися на Київ.
Wow, this artillery unit is really well experienced. They were at the battles of Kharkiv and the Battle of Hostomel.
Так, на цей напрямок. Попрацювали трошки тут, потім поїхали, прийняли участь в Балаклійсько-Ізюмській операції. Звільнили Балаклію, повернулися сюди і тепер ми тут.
Балаклії трофеї здобули?
Один піон, 2 КАМАЗи. Було більше, але нам не дали часу. Тільки кацапи пішли, ми отримали наказ повернутися сюди. У нас просто не було часу перевірити, де там що залишилося. А там залишилося багато всього.
Третій, я їду прямо. А яка на баржі?
Третьому зарядити.
We now see it's nighttime and they're setting up their peons to get ready to fire. They're now firing. They're now on the move again. It's daylight once more. We can see a peon there in the distance. Man, I gotta tell you, although the peon is really old SPG, these things are still impressive. We can see them going through the reloading process. Then we now see the peon ramming the shell home. We now see them loading the charge, shoving it into the breach. Now ready to fire again. They will fire the round. And now they repeat the reloading process again. See them firing again. And also notice this, y'all may have realized a while ago, and I pointed this out in a video, and I believe this is something that we can actually talk about now, is that whenever we see the Wagner unit firing off their peons, the smoke, I guess you could say the smoke that comes from the powder of the charge that they're using to fire off these pieces is incredibly orange. It's so orange, it's creating a cloud that looks like something that comes out of the back of a plane in Vietnam, like Agent Orange. Ukrainian shells have more of this clear-ish or like light yellow hue to them, which shows that the powder may be a better quality or burn a little cleaner, which is a very interesting thing to note because it may show that the Wagner group and the Russian artillery units as a whole may be using inferior powder, which may lead to less performance in their artillery. You now see them grabbing the next shell and getting it ready under the breach. You now see the peon going through the loading process again.
Послідовність дій. Для початку ми заїжджаємо на вогневу позицію. Потім вибираємо основний напрямок, спрямовуємо туди гармату. Потім закопуємось, точніше довертаємо основний напрямок по бусолі, воно у нас стоїть. Потім все, готове до роботи. Нам дають снаряди і заряджаємо і працюємо по цілі. На даний момент ми працюємо осколковими снарядами до 2,7 піон. Важать
Oh my
110
god!
кілограмів.
These shells weigh 250 pounds a pop.
The shell? One shell?
Yeah,
Weighs that
one
much?
shell. That's why they keep on picking them up with cradles off the ground. They're using 2 guys to do it, because the shells are so heavy a single person can't even think to move them normally.
Dang, man, even for 2 people, 242 pounds, that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. That's a huge shell. It doesn't even get close to the size of a 16-inch shell and how much that weighs, but that's still really heavy for a Frontline SPG.
Летять на 30 кілометрів.
30 kilometers. So not only are they throwing a 250-pound shell out there, it can travel 30 kilometers, which I think is about the same range as an M777. So that is crazy.
Nice Unimog.
Oh yeah, really nice. You know, they gotta be deaf after firing this thing like 10 times. You now see them getting out some more charges. I mean, you see the battery commander saying that they need some smaller charges to get less range. You can see them unpacking the next shells. You see them rolling them around because they're too heavy to pick up. All right, see this right here? See that? That's how heavy they are. They're needing a 3-man crew on that cradle to pick that thing up and put it onto the autoloader.
Man, these poor guys are going to have back issues from that.
Yeah, man. Oh, goodness. Also, another thing I gotta point out here. Watch this. You see that right there? The finger in the ear, mouth wide open. You don't want your mouth closed. With a caliber of this size, if your mouth is closed, that thing will fire and your eardrums get busted out, and then you're deaf. So you can see that right there. I think everyone on the crew is doing that. He even is doing that as well.
Тяжко йде. Давай, а ну попробуй. Крути.
Ой!
Леня! Переведи сразу його.
Да, давай.
Man, Zinnia came running over, man. He was going like Mach 10. He changed the fuse, they put the cradle on the shell. They're now going to pick it up, lug it on over to the piece, set it down. And you can see the guy's struggling just due to the weight.
Переводимо снаряд на осколкову дію.
А як це відбувається?
Просто тумблер повертається, там є бетонобійна сила з заводу, а ми переключуємо на осколище. А я, до речі, цей. Мені було років 12, у нас в студії, то місний телеканал приїжджав, як ми гриби збирали, про гриби розказували.
Ну, розказували там про гриби, а тепер про
He's like, a news crew came to my town. I was speaking about mushrooms on TV when I was 12. I'm a minor celebrity, if I do say so myself. He's literally me!
Мені квіти ближче до душі, як виявилось, чим гриби. Квіти які? Так, я люблю піон. А вона знаєте, яка тут нормальна? Божі ружі на піоні.
We now see the breach closing on the peon.
Батареї. Хлопці спочатку стріляли бетонобойними зарядами, а, мабуть, вибивали когось з підвалу. Зараз перейшли на осколкову дію, то робота по відкритій теплі. Це не повний заряд, хлопці працюють другим зменшеним зарядом. На повному було б набагато потужніше.
You now hear the piece firing again. They're scraping the mud off their shoes. A very typical thing here in the South. If you ever walk around outside of like a lawn, it's always like
Є
that.
трохи. Ви вже притомилися?
Тільки почали.
Matthew, and I don't know if you know who this guy is, but is it just me or does this guy look like Sam Hyde?
I don't know who Sam Hyde is.
I swear he looks like him. Like, I don't even really know who the guy is. I've just seen his face and heard his name once or twice. But this guy looks a lot like him.
Є трохи. Ви вже притомилися?
Тільки почали.
А.
Everyone knows who I'm talking about, man. They're like, he can't keep getting away with this. You see the peon still firing. This peon has been firing in this position for quite a while. You can see the next supply truck pulling up with another allotment of shells.
Нам сказали, що ви людина, яка...
Ой.
страхує гармату. Розкажіть про свою
В першу чергу не гармату, а свій розрахунок. Ми що робимо? За допомогою оцього, за 35 градусів, детектор. Знаходимо ворожого БПЛА і на 3 кілометри його фіксуємо. Тоді робимо маленький купол над нами. Ми все завжди в захисті.
А купол за допомогою чого створюється?
ЕДСМ-4.
That guy seems like a jolly guy, actually. Like, he's like, I'm the drone radar. I'm the living drone radar. I pick up drones 3 kilometers away. He seems like a really jolly fella, although he just got his eardrum blasted out. I feel sorry for him.
Включається батарейничка. Нагорілася. Наводимо, куди нам потрібно. Нажимаємо на курок, тримаємо 4 хвилини і все. Ну, в безпечності. Ну, ця позиція добра, тихенька, спокійна. Взагалі все буде добре. Все буде Україна. Зараз буде постріл. Так. Ой!
Oh, God! That mud!
Oh, man. That is thick mud.
See him firing it. It's so neat to watch this thing fire. I gotta say, I could watch this all day, honestly. This guy appears like the certified forklift operator. He just runs the thing. Now see it firing again.
Oh. Oh. Dang, that noise is horrific.
We now hear the command giving to abort the position and move on since the shell just flew overhead. This means that the Russians are landing a ranging shot. They're now landing a second one. The peon is packed up and they're now well on their way out of the area before the artillery really starts coming in thick.
Так, це була робота противника на заборону дії. Тобто вони поклали 2 снаряди, так щоб ми припинили роботу, так щоб нас спогнути.
Тобто цілі уразити установку в них не було?
Ні, вони стріляли десь приблизно. Ми ж бачили, тобто воно впало, а де воно впало не видно було. Десь метрів 700.
Тільки туди запрям, не буде нічого видно.
Димдовєнник знайшов? Шукай.
Сьогодні у нас була доволі плідна робота. Працювали в напрямку Лисичанська та Верхокам'янського НПЗ. Основною нашою задачею було уразити місце скоплення, там де велике зібрання людей їхніх. Тобто це такий аналог казарм, які вони зробили в польових умовах. Фактично, якщо брати по цілям, то це піхота укрита. Було нанесено вогневе ураження спочатку снарядом бетонобойним, які призначені для знищення саме фортифікаційних споруд, і затим для вже закріплення, так сказати, тих, кого вигнали, хто вирішив, що бігати від снаряду – це гарна ідея, не ховатися десь глибше в землі. Тих ми пригостили осколково-фугасними. Якщо не попав під вибух, то зачепили осколками, як то виражається. Тобто трішки ми їх піхоту, так сказати, прорідили стадо. Дай Бог, що щось їм в голову прийде, вони почнуть відступати. Ну, на це хочеться сподіватися. Це було близько 15 бетонобойних снарядів і десь 8 осколково-фугасних. Це доволі багато, враховуючи на те, що 203 мм калібр цієї системи і доволі такі потужні вибухи. В середньому за день вилітає зазвичай до 15 снарядів. Чому? Тому що система доволі не нова, в врахуванні з тим, скільки вона зробила роботи в Києві, тобто скільки снарядів було випущено. І виходячи з того, що тут багато снарядів, то ми ж розуміємо, що снаряди всі не нескінченні, тому ставимо ставку не на кількість пострілів, а на їх влучність саме. Тому намагаємося економити їх і робити більш точні постріли.
And with that, that's the end of the video, but giving you an idea of what it looks like to work with a peon crew in the area of Seversk. And of course, it is really interesting, very, very interesting to see how they actually operate from start to finish on a firing mission. Also, they said that they only fire about 15 rounds per day, and there is an actual reason behind that. It's not due to them having a lack of targets. It's that peons, once fired a certain number of times, their barrels will wear down and either require a complete replacement or to be rebored, which is a very labor-intensive and time-consuming process on an SPG like that. And so they most likely have loads of targets to fire at with this peon. However, in an effort to conserve the barrel of this peon for as long as possible, they only consign it about 15 shots per day. We're now going to be moving on out of that area and on into the Bachmut region, where we have seen the Russians have made another advance. And just like we were saying yesterday, the Russians are sticking to the small tree-lined area here around this canal on their way to Chasiv Yar and Yeveniske. They once again moved down that direction today, and if we have to guess or assume their future projections or trajectory, they will continue down this tree line until they reach the T-0504 highway here in yellow and try and cut off the Ukrainian supply line and start attacking the rear of Bachmut, which is Chasiv Yar. This could become quite concerning. The Ukrainians, of course, can counter this fairly easily, knowing that the majority of the push is occurring through the forested area. They could start to hit the forested area from multiple directions, also just triangulate or some artillery right into this tree line and hold them at bay, or attempt to counterattack and push them back further down the canal and towards the ridgeline. But with that, we're now going to be moving on into the video clips that we got from the northern flank today, where we saw some fun times in the trenches as the Ukrainians made sure that the Russians got a bath of shrapnel.
Hate them. John Stossel reports, nuts for Nintendo, when 2020 continues.
I don't even know what the hell this is. We're gonna mute it.
It went to a trap beat after that?
Yeah, it went to a trap beat. That was weird. We can see that one of them got bombed. The other Russian runs out. He's like, "Oh, let me help you." "Oh, excuse me, comrade. Excuse me." He steps over his body and he just leaves. "I'm leaving."
Oh man, savage.
It's not my day, Bliet. And we got some flashing on the screen for some reason. And more flashing. I'm sure it's going with the trap remix. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But a really weird soundtrack, first and foremost. And secondly, sad for the Russian guy there who got bombarded that his friend didn't even care. Or is he really even a friend? He just stepped over him and kept on going. And so with that, we're now moving on from this little clip and on into the next one, where we saw some fighting occurring around Soledar. And this was viewed from a distance from a Ukrainian defensive position. Here's the clip. We can see smoke rising in the distance from some kind of a burning vehicle. We're not really sure whose vehicle that is. It could be either Ukrainian or Russian. We're most likely assuming Russian due to the losses they took today.
Для лучшего эффекта сгоняй поближе.
А мене і так не хуйово видно.
Та хуйово видно, там получше.
Поверь. Совсем не хуйово.
Ух ты, блядь. Сейчас я наебнулся, подверну.
We can see them looking around and showing us the lay of the land.
Видно? Чого? Видно, ніхуй делать. А там, блядь, Та я бачу. Даже ніхуй. Охуєнно видно.
You can hear artillery in the distance as they continue to look around and show us what the battlefield looks like today. And we can still see that single burning vehicle out there in the distance.
Ні, хата горить.
Там? Пошлите, станем там в деревах, покурим.
На камері лучше видно, сука, чим я так бачу, йобана просто.
And with that, that's the end of the clip, but once again giving us an idea of what the northern flank currently looks like as the front line has remained stagnant for days and the losses for the Russians continue to mount. We're now moving into the center of the Bachmut front, where we saw a Russian getting hit in this area as well. Not just are they getting hit in the north, but they're also getting hit in the center. Before you know it, they're going to be getting hit below the belt. Let's watch the clip. We can also hear the funeral rave music playing, and we can see the Russians running around, so this gives us an idea that things are not going well for them here in a minute. See the two Russians gathering up on the left side of the screen, now the center. And now we can see the artillery coming in nice and good. Hitting right onto the Russians in multiple different areas, and throwing up a decent bit of white smoke as well. The Russians, most likely scared, are cowering, crawling, and crying. They ran and cried like a little baby. And I've got to say, it is quite nice to see that the artillery is continuing to land on top of these guys and trying to take them out. Even taking the roofs off of the buildings so that way the drone can get a better look to see where they are. We can now see some of the houses and some of the surrounding garden sheds on fire, and we have not seen the Russian soldiers since the beginning of the barrage. That may be a good sign. See the buildings continuing to burn. We have not seen any Russian soldiers moving after the barrage, and so we have to assume that they must have been put to sleep. Like a rockabye baby in a treetop. I don't know why they put a baby in a treetop. That seems very dangerous, because if you drop it, it's got a long way down. But that's how the rhyme goes. I'm not the one who makes the rules. We're going to be moving on to the next clip from the Bachmut area, where we also saw another Russian soldier get hit, believe it or not. So let's watch this one. Interesting music. We can now see the two bomblets being held over the Russians. We can now see the two bomblets being used on the Russians. We can see one of them explode. We can see a Russian soldier come crawling out of the rubble, out of nowhere. We can see the second one going in, and oh, buddy. Ooh. Shrapnel to the booty. Or as Forrest Gump said, something bit me! We can see the third bomblet being dropped. And, oh by golly, have a holly jolly Christmas. We can now see a second guy coming out, and a third guy. It looks like they got tossed around a little bit, and now the third guy's leaving his two friends behind to sit there and fend for themselves, and now the drone is flying off after dropping its allotment of bomblets. Fairly interesting to see, and good to know that they're still inflicting losses with these here drone bomblets and drones. We're now going to be moving on into the next clip, further behind the lines, where we saw a Russian ammunition depot explode today, in a rather fantastical fashion. I know that's not English, I don't care. Let's watch this. Alright, we're muting that. But we can see the ammo depot right here. And there it goes. Fairly orange in color and also quite bright. We know that there was a lot of ammo in there because it went kaboom.
Jaga, jaga.
Jaga, jaga. Boof. Igor! But with that, that's the end of the little video right there. And of course, really nice to see that they were able to get another ammunition depot. I've noticed that the ammunition depots have gotten smaller and smaller as the war has gone on and have been put in worse and worse conditioned buildings. And I think it's because of the pogrom of bases that, what was his name talking about? It's not Prigozhin. It's the guy from the DPR and the LPR, the one who shot down the Malaysian aircraft. I forgot his name.
I can't remember exactly who it is.
But he called it like the pogrom of summer or something like that when the Ukrainians blew up all the massive ammo depots and the Russians were screwed over for about a month. That is, you can see the results of that right here because they're not putting them into large buildings in massive amounts anymore. They're putting them in large amounts in smaller buildings now and hoping that they're not found. And so with that, we're moving on from that little clip and on into the next one in the Bachmut area in the center where we saw, guess what? Another Russian soldier getting hit. I know this one's got music. Yep. It's got Miami Vice music playing. We can see a bomblet fall on the three of them. One of them's decided to try and roll a little bit. This one's just kind of wallowing around. Now do the Harlem Shake. Wink, 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 wink. But anyway, with that,
Sure, not trap, but dubstep remix.
Dubstep remix. You know it, man. You know it. But with that, that's the end of the clip, and we can see even more Russians getting hit in the Bachmut area today, and we can see where all the losses are starting to come from over the past 24 hours. Moving on down to our only clip we had in the Klushkievka area, we saw that a Ukrainian unit ensured that some Russians were having some fun in the sun today, because it's always important to go out into the wide open spaces and have fun out there in the sun, and also make sure to get your vitamin S. If you're wondering what the hell is vitamin S, the S stands for shrapnel. Let's watch the video. We can hear the Mario music playing. I don't want a cease and desist letter from Nintendo, so we're just going to mute that. And we can see the F1 bomblet being held right over these Russians. They don't know it, but they're about to find out. We now see the bomblet on its way. We see a Russian running right under. Oh! Why the hell did they always run into it? They are always running into it. Like, if he had stayed where he started at the beginning of this video, he may have been alright. These guys literally run into danger.
You know, if the Russians were smart, they'd create like one of those danger films you get shown when you start working somewhere. They're like, don't be like Bob. Don't put your hand in the meat grinder.
Be like one of those Chinese work safety videos where they're like, don't stick your hand in a ream of paper with the machine still on and get flung around like a rag doll. Like, don't do stupid stuff. But anyways, with that, that's the end of the clip. And you got to give credit to the 109th Brigade where it's due. That bomblet drop was pretty nice. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Bachmut area and further down the line, out of the Bachmut front. Only a small advance has been made in this area, and it cost them around 800 men and dozens of APCs and tanks. And so we're now moving on into the area of Donetsk, where we saw a low-flying Mi-8 popping off its flares, and it was so low to the ground, most of these flares hit the ground and bounced off of it. So here's the clip. You see that right there? We can see the flares bouncing off the ground. And you see that little Mi-8 trucking on. You've got to give a lot of credit to these Valorant Mi-8 pilots who are doing this job each and every day. It's very risky, and managing not to get shot down to their incredible piloting skills. We're now going to be moving on from this small clip. It was just a neat one to show. And we're going to be moving further down the line and into the area of Pisky, because we saw today that the Ukrainians were able to capture a slightly damaged T-72 that was apparently hit by one of their ATGMs, but it was operational enough that they decided to recover the vehicle. We can see them rolling it off. We can see the track is it's been a little messed up. It's got a giant Z on it, and we can also see that this T-72B wasn't in the best of shape, but the Ukrainians see something in it, and they know that they can fix it. And so that's the end of the clip, and nice to see that they were able to capture a little T-72B. We're now going to be moving on even further down the line and out of the Donetsk area, because there hasn't been a lot of frontline movement here, and we're now going to be moving into the area of Volodar. In this area, we've seen one of the first and only offensives that have started during the winter months. It seems to be somewhat smaller in scale, and we've also noticed that the Russians are taking incredibly high losses assaulting the small town of Volodar. For example, we saw a couple of Russian tanks blasted on film today right outside the town. Yeah. But anyways, we can see the two T-72Bs, it appears, maybe a B-3, sitting there and exploding. And there's also a BMP-3 somewhere in there as well. Also, Trister, I see... we'll address that later. I forgot. That's a super chat. We have to address that
Yeah,
later.
I was about to say. You're jumping ahead.
Yeah. We can see the BMP rolling off right there. Also, like it's sliding in the mud as well, and it's just slowly moving. It's hardly moving anymore. The engine's almost given out on it. It's now given out completely, and now the BMP is really smoking. If Smokey the Bear was around, he would be rolling in his grave, because that is too much smoke. We get it, you vape. And as the General Surgeon of Russia says, smoking leads to terrible military disasters and campaign failures. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. And you see that the situation in Volodar is not necessarily coalescing to Russia's advantage. And in the next clip, we've also seen that the same thing occurred. Twice. This one actually went rogue. There's no other way to explain it. The tank driver went crazy, and he started running into other APCs and vehicles and just going nuts. So here's the clip. I'm going to have to mute that. But you can see...
music was king, though.
You can see a mostly destroyed BMP-1 that the Russians still have running, moving up. The engine bay has been blasted wide open. This tank's going a little crazy. It's moving forward, and... Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no. This BMP-2 is loaded with guys in the back, and they're about to sweep them all like a broom right off the back with the gun barrel. So we see them driving forward. Oh!
Oh, man, they're getting... I can't say that, but they're getting very badly, you know what.
You know it. You know it.
They're getting...
well, I got to thank the the Russian tank right there for wiping out a literal squad of Russians. That's good on them. We can now see that they've all decided to abandon the BMP for one reason or another. One guy doesn't seem to be having too much fun, but he's trying to get up and move away from the fun times of the sun.
This is the more sadistic Tony, I guess.
Donnie! 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 But anyways, with that, that's the end of that clip. And you see that once again, the Russians are really setting the precedent for what is a great military. They are the second best in Ukraine, and I believe that they definitely deserve that title. We're now going to be moving on from that little video right there. As you can see, once again, the offensive is not going all too well in Volodar, and I think it is putting the Russians a little bit over their heads. With that, we're now going to be moving down into the center of the southern front, where we saw that apparently the Ukrainians have discovered that this mass Russian buildup might not be real, and they may be using fake tanks, inflatable rubber tanks, like this one here.
That's an inflatable tank?
Apparently, that's what they're saying. It looks like grass to me that's been covered over a tank,
yeah,
but you really can't tell, so... We'll be seeing if we can get any more interesting information on this. This was put out by Live Ukraine Media, which has been a fairly reliable source over the course of this war. But this is fairly interesting. We'll have to look into it a little bit more, but I thought I'd run it by y'all, so that way, in case if it does turn out to be true, y'all saw it right here. And so with that, let's see what the comments has to say. Let's see, just to let everyone know, the United States has images that can tank from blow-up air tank. Don't believe me, Google if they can. Okay. Anyways, with that, we're now going to be moving on from this, but fairly interesting to see if true. We're now going to be moving on from that bit of news on the southern front and on into the area of Mariupol, because the Russians are currently in the process of demolishing most of the town. 90 to 100% of all of the buildings inside of Mariupol have been deemed to be completely unusable and would have to be demolished by the end of the war. And we can see that the Russians are already doing that for their own purposes. And we can see all that's left of one of the buildings that they've been demolishing in Mariupol is the staircase, and that's all that's left. Once again, very unfortunate to think that thousands of people probably called that apartment building home, and now there's nothing left of it but the stairwell. We're now going to be moving on from the area of Mariupol, and that sad and sobering little picture, and we're now going to be moving on to the Dnieper River, because we saw the Ukrainians firing Stugnas across the river and at the Russians, which I have to say, put me, and well, not really me, but it put the Russians more so in a tizzy. And I just saw Sean Tiz throw up a super chat, so I had to say tizzy. But anyways, here's the clip. Oh man, they hit that guitar string. I was like, uh-oh, is it copyrighted? Nope, that's it. I've heard too many guitar strings. I'm freaked out. I'm scared. So we're gonna have to mute it. But we can see them here loading up into a truck. You see them getting their armbands applied, nice and good. Nice, solid yellow armband. We now see them on a boat, traveling across the Riva. Also, sorry, Arnie Yunt, I didn't know I was blowing your eardrums out. But anyways, we can see the boat continuing on. And this actually looks like the beginning of that raid that we saw last night. And we didn't see this part. We'll keep on watching to see if that is the case. This may be new footage, or it may have added a little bit to it, but I'm fairly certain. I feel like this happened last night. You now see them firing from the boat as they move on from the area. You still see them firing from the boat. You can buy me a boat. You see some rounds hitting the water in front of them and causing some water spurts. We now see them moving to one side of the river. And this is actually that footage. This is adding some extra footage that we didn't see from last night, because that's the exact same raid that occurred near Novokhovka, and we can see the Russian artillery trying to hit the boats as they cross the river again. We now see the boats meeting up, everyone having a little bit of a chit-chat. And you see that they got a nice outboard motor right there. Now see them scooting across the river in broad daylight to a small little dock where a Ukrainian soldier is awaiting them and is going to help and get their boat tied up so that way they can get off and then get back on land. We now see them taking the wounded soldier that we saw from last night on a truck out of there. We never saw any of this additional footage, and we can now see once again the base that they raided with a whole bunch of white smoke billowing from it, showing that ammunition may be burning and on fire in that camp. And so with that, that's the end of the video, but once again adding a little bit extra to that clip we saw from the Novokhovka area of the raid that occurred there last night. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from the southern front and all the way up to Kyiv, because it is time for the address from President Zelenskyy. And so, without further ado, here's the address from the one, the only President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Slava Ukraini!
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні ми витримали черговий масований ракетний удар терористів. Удар, який повністю підтверджує все те, про що ми говорили з партнерами і вчора, і від початку нашого дипломатичного марафону. Це зло, цю російську агресію можна і треба зупиняти тільки адекватною зброєю. Ніщо інше держава-терорист не зрозуміє. Зброєю на полі бою. Зброєю, яка дає захист нашому небу. Новими санкціями проти Росії, тобто політичною і економічною зброєю та зброєю юридичною. Треба працювати ще активніше для створення трибуналу щодо злочину агресії Росії проти України і для компенсації всіх збитків, завданих цією війною, за рахунок російських активів. Кожна російська ракета проти наших міст, кожен іранський безпілотник, який застосовується терористами, це аргументи, чому потрібно більше зброї. Тільки зброя знешкоджує терористів. Я вдячний усім у світі, хто реально протидіє терору разом з нами, хто пришвидшує постачання Україні необхідних засобів оборони і хто готовий посилювати санкційний тиск на державу-терориста. Зокрема, розширюємо нашу танкову коаліцію. Є відповідне рішення Канади. Я дякую за це. Вже 12 країн є у нашій танковій коаліції. Сьогодні завдяки наданим Україні системам ППО і завдяки професійності наших воїнів вдалося збити більшість російських ракет і шахедів. Це як мінімум сотні врятованих життів, десятки збережених об'єктів інфраструктури. Я дякую нашим повітряним силам, кожному і кожній, хто минулої ночі, вранці і вдень забезпечував захист України від ракет, дронів, терористів. А особливо я хочу відзначити воїнів 96-ї Київської, 160-ї Одеської та 208-ї Херсонської зенітних ракетних бригад. Але, на жаль, лише засобами ППО складно забезпечити 100% захисту. Тим більше, коли терористи застосовують балістичні ракети. Сьогодні були влучання ракет. На жаль, є поранені, є загиблі. Мої співчуття усім рідним і близьким. На цей російський терор потрібні асиметричні відповіді, потрібен новий рух наших сил на фронті. Потрібно забезпечити поразки наземних сил терористів. Що б там не планували російські окупанти, наша підготовка має бути міцнішою. Говоримо про це з партнерами. Обговорюємо це на засіданнях Ставки. Сьогодні було саме таке засідання. Детально щодо ситуації на Донеччині. Бахмут, Володар, загалом битва за Донбас. Дякую всім нашим підрозділам, які проявляють потрібну Україні стійкість, виснажують окупанта, знищують його. Чим більше Росія втратить в цій битві за Донбас, тим меншим буде її загальний потенціал. Детально ж на ставці обговорили і те, до чого варто готуватись найближчими місяцями. Знаємо, що планують окупанти. Протидіємо. Це стосується і постачання озброєнь та снарядів, і загального зміцнення наших сил оборони. Провів сьогодні оперативні наради щодо ситуації в енергетиці, щодо наявних дефіцитів та відновлення після ударів терористів. Ремонтні бригади працюють в усіх точках, де були влучання. Станом на цей час обмеження постачання електрики є в більшості наших регіонів. Найскладніша ситуація в Одеській області, на Львівщині, у Вінницькій, у Київській, Сумській та Полтавській областях. Енергетики, комунальники та усі, хто залучений до стабілізації енергосистеми, робитимуть все необхідне, щоб відновити генерацію і технічні можливості постачання. Я дякую усім, хто займається цією роботою. Я дякую також усім у світі, хто допоміг і допомагає Україні енергетичним обладнанням. Кожній країні, кожній компанії, кожній людині, тим мільйонам наших друзів, хто через United 24 або через інші інструменти підтримки доводить, що російський терор повинен програти. І ще одне. На жаль, змушений це повторити для тих, хто погано почув. Будь-який виїзд за кордон державних посадовців, народних депутатів, представників місцевої влади та інших осіб, які уповноважені на здійснення функцій держави чи місцевого самоврядування, будь-який їхній виїзд за кордон повинен бути згідно відповідного рішення РНБО, яке ви всі бачили. Інших виїздів за кордон посадовців чи депутатів у воєнний час не буде. Я думаю, це справедливо. Я дякую всім, хто воює за Україну. Я дякую всім, хто працює заради нашої держави і суспільства. Вічна пам'ять кожному і кожній, чиє життя забрали російські терористи. Росія буде відповідати за терор. Слава Україні!
And with that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 338 of the war in Ukraine. And of course, that rounds out our first part of the stream, which is the news segment. I hope you all like, comment, and subscribe on this stream as we run this every single day of the week, except for Mondays. That's the only day we take off, but every other day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, you can always count on us to be here reporting the past 24 hours of the news of the war and also running fundraisers to help support the Ukrainians that we're covering the news on. And so with that, I thank everyone so much once again for watching tonight's news. We're about to be moving into the question segment, so if you have a question or you have sent in a super chat, stick around because we will be making sure to answer every single super chat that has come in and as many live chats as we possibly can. I'd also like to make a special note tonight that now, due to YouTube's addition of pretty much welcoming every first-time super chatter ever, I have noticed, oh my lord, Arnie, good lord. But I've noticed, speaking of which, that we have had a lot of first-time super chatters tonight. I believe we've had about 4 or 5 of y'all tonight that I've seen on my end. And before we even get to that, I would like to thank y'all so much for supporting this channel. It usually takes a lot for someone to eventually think that a channel is worth supporting, and I'm highly honored to think that y'all find this channel so worthwhile that y'all would support us and also find it worthwhile to ask us a question as well. So with that, we're now going to be moving on into the question segment. I know Arnie Yunt's going to be coming first, but before we get to those questions, we've got to get to those polls because those polls are looking sweet and juicy. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so for the very juicy polls, we have the first one, which says, are the Russians hurriedly demolishing buildings to destroy evidence of war crimes? 78% said yes, that is likely the case. 13% said unsure, and 9% said no, they are just tidying up. Now, I have to admit, I really don't have any concrete evidence to say yes or no on this one, but logic would tell me that I don't know why the Russians would be so focused on destroying buildings right now, considering they're trying to fight a war that they're losing. So I'm going to say it's probably likely. I can't really think of another reason they'd be doing it. I doubt they're just tidying up. that wouldn't make much sense. But Enforcer, what say you?
I doubt that they're rebuilding Mariupol with any kind of intent to actually help out the local population. They're either trying to hide war crimes or they're tearing down those buildings to start Russian colonization of the area, so that way they can start grafting Russians into that area of Ukraine, so that way the Ukrainians retake it. The cultural clash in between Russians, ethnic Russians, and ethnic Ukrainians within Ukrainian borders will continue. I believe that may be one of the other reasons behind it, but we can't really say for certain until months pass. It's either one or the other, and both of them have some really good points that make them equally likely to be the end result or the end goal of the Russians in Mariupol. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and let's get on to the next one.
And the next one says, the U.S. labels Russia-backed Wagner Group as a transnational criminal organization. What are your thoughts? 76% said this should have been done ages ago. 3% said unsure. 12% said it's a good move, but only symbolic. And 10% said, I think it's an excellent move. Now, once again, I think it should have been done ages ago, but also I think it was pretty much symbolic. I don't think really anything changed from that. But it is good to know, I guess, officially where the United States stands on that very obvious terrorist group. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say it doesn't really change much. It's good to know that they did it. It's a long time coming. It should have happened earlier. But it doesn't really change much of anything because the United States military has already slaughtered the Wagner group in Syria. And there was an actual battle that occurred, between Wagner and U.S. forces, which was the Battle of Kashan. And we can see right here, oh, look at that. Look at that. The United States, the SDF, and boom, Wagner Group. Well, let's see what
they called us a belligerent?
Yeah.
That's mighty presumptuous.
Very rude of them to call us belligerent. But anyways, let's look at the losses. None. One SDF fighter was wounded, and the Syrians claim that 55 were killed. The U.S. claims that there was approximately 100 killed, and the SOHR claims that there was about 68 killed. So it appears that the Wagner Group didn't really do that well. In fact, they didn't end up killing or wounding a single American, and they only cut the toe of one SDF fighter. So I would say that it doesn't really change anything because we were already beasting on the Wagner before. We'll still keep beasting on them, and there's nothing they can do about it but cry a river, and I hope they do, because that would just be, that would serve them right at this point. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well, because in terms of us kicking their ass, it doesn't change much of anything. We'll do it again, and we'll do it without any regrets this time. We didn't do it with regrets the first time. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one says, could artillery be one of the worst jobs in the Ukrainian military? It looks like 66% said, it's tough, but not the worst. 23% said, yes, it looks very tough. 5% said unsure, and 6% said, it looks easy, not tough. Now, for the 6% that said that, I want to see y'all act that out, because to me, that looks tough. That's really tough physically, psychologically, because of that loud noise constantly. And also they're having to like run around very quickly when they have to move that stuff like they did in the video. And also just, I can only imagine the back problems they're going to have from picking up those massive shells like that. Even 2 or 3 people picking it up, that's a lot. So I'm going to go with the 23% that said it looks very tough. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say it could get a lot tougher. And while the artillery has it tough, and they've got it tough in terms of manual labor they have to do, I believe the toughest job in the Ukrainian armed forces is the infantry. The infantry are really getting everything, I guess, the brunt of everything and the worst of everything. The artillery goes to pre-prepared positions in fields and they fire. A soldier has a pre-prepared position like a trench. They live in mud, they live in literal water up to their ankles or their knees. They're out there getting shelled constantly. They have Russians charging them like it's the Second World War, and they got to try and mow them down before they get to their trench. The infantry by far have, in my opinion, the worst job out of everyone in Ukraine, and that's why I respect the infantry to a massive degree, because the mental fortitude that they need to deal with the horrors and the just absolute hellscape that being an infantryman in this kind of war takes a lot. And of course, I'm not discrediting the artillery one bit. The artillery is really the winning, determining factor of the ground war right now, and those artillerists, as far as the importance of their job, are far more important than a infantry platoon or an infantry company in terms of what they're capable of doing to the Russians. But the infantry still have the worst job, in my opinion, and I think that the infantry deserve a whole lot of praise and a whole lot of credit for doing the terrific job they do. But I also say that the artillery deserves a whole lot of praise and credit as well for the terrific job they're doing. They both suck in their own ways, but I still would say that the infantry have the toughest job of them all, because they have to sit there at the receiving end of Russian artillery, and they also have to sit there at the receiving end of everything else that the Russians have, tanks, infantry, and so on. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, but I will admit the artillerists of the Ukraine have a very tough job, and I thought it was very interesting with how casual it was that the shell went screeching overhead, exploded about 700 yards away from them, and they're like, where did that hit? It hit somewhere over there, and they were just like, abort the mission, pack up, we'll move on. And it almost seemed like it was just a small comeuppance, like someone came up to him like a security guard and said, hey, I'm sorry, you can't be sitting here anymore, you've got to go. That's almost how they acted. They're like, oh, okay, sorry, and they just went and left.
Yeah, basically so.
Yeah, and so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. With that, we are on to the next one. And also, before we even get to the Super Chats, I don't know if we have another poll or if we're getting right into the Super Chats, but I would like to thank E. King, because it actually said it was your first time supporting the channel as well, and thank you so much. But we'll make sure to address that in detail here in a minute, but let's get on to that next poll.
And also, folks, don't worry. I see a lot of folks panicking, saying, show the horse video. We're going to get to the horse video before we get into the Super Chats, because it's been so highly requested.
Peter.
I'm not really sure what it is, but I do have it on my list right here. So we'll get to that in just a moment.
Peter,
but
the horse is here.
PETA?
Yeah, you haven't seen the
meme?
meme
You mean
from
PETA?
Yeah, no, like Family Guy, you know, when Lewis said,
Peter, the horse is here.
Have you never heard that?
No.
Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Let me
we're going to get copyrighted for that, though. They're going to come down on us hard.
No, if I just play the sound clip, it's really short.
Peter, the horse is here.
Here we go. Let me make sure I get the shortest one. All right, here we go.
Peter, the horse is here.
Anyways, we're gonna get.
What is it? What's the catch?
Oh, it's just a joke. They had like this goofy horse that they bought that was like literally stupid, and it just wandered around inside their house. Although it was supposed to stay outside, so it like wandered up right behind the dining room table in like the clip. I don't watch Family Guy a lot, so I'm just going off of what the clip showed and like the backstory had been told a little bit beforehand. And the horse shows up behind PETA, you know, Peter Griffin, and so Lewis says, "Peter, the horse is here." And then it starts like trying to eat his head or something. I don't know. Anyways, with that,
different.
It's a little different, but I thought it came in with the horse thing. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next poll, and then we'll finally get to the horse thing.
All right. So the final poll says tanks mark a quote unquote new page in war against Russia, but the West must step up delivery, warned a Ukrainian MP. What are your thoughts? It looks like 82% agreed with him and said he's right. Delivery speed is key. 4% said unsure. 11% said the West is moving as fast as possible. And 3% said no, he's wrong. Ukraine will win anyway. I'm going to agree with the 82%. I think the delivery speed is key. It doesn't matter how much stuff we commit to Ukraine. If we can't get it there in a timely fashion, it's going to do no good if we give it to them after the war is concluded. So I say speed it up if we can. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say speed it up. Everything in logistics revolves around the volume and the speed at which it is able to be delivered. And that is what the Ukrainians have been able to master. The West needs to master the idea of sending these vehicles and equipment as quickly as possible and training Ukrainian crews on them as fast as possible as well. And so with that, I hope that addresses that poll fairly well. And with that, I think we're out of polls.
That was the last poll, so let me tell you about that horse video so you can look it up real quick. Let's see here. I got the message from Barry Mundy earlier. He said, "Oh, mate, please play the horse stretcher video. Mate, I almost peed my pants."
Let's see, the horse stretcher video. Ever seen a horse ambulance? What could go wrong? Is this the one?
Is it Starsky?
No. Wait, is it from Starsky?
I think it might have been something Starsky put out. I think.
Wait, it pops up in the search thing. It says Starsky horse. Let me type
I
that
can't
in.
see it, by the way, if you have it on the screen.
1 second, I'm trying to. That's weird. It's not showing up anything here. I typed in Starsky horse. Let me just go to Starsky's channel and see if he's got it here. Let's see here. We need to get more details on this because I'm not seeing anything about a horse video on Starsky's channel. So
someone said horse ambulance.
Okay. Horse ambulance. Is this something that's like starting to circle around? Oh wait a minute, this has got to be it. Hang on. Let's check with the live chat real quick. Is this the video?
Is this it?
I'm gonna sit here for a second. Tell me, yeah, everyone. Yes, that's it. Okay, so let's watch it. Right, so they're putting the guy on the back of the horse. Oh, this guy's gonna get kicked in the face back here. Okay, so they're moving the guy. The horse isn't happy with this. You can already tell the horse is very unsettled by this whole thing. Oh!
Oh no!
Oh my god! Oh, that guy almost got trampled. Oh my man! Oh my god!
Man,
Oh, man.
That guy ended up in worse condition on the stretcher. That back went crunch.
Damn, are you a horse? Because you kicked my face into the ground.
Damn, son, where'd you find that spine?
Dude, this guy, this was a real guy right here. He has spinal issues, broken ribs, a cracked skull, and also he's probably lost toes. Oh man, I don't know where in the world y'all all saw that, but that is funny. I thought it had something to do with the war, but yeah, that's not a smart idea to use a horse like that. And so with that, we're going to be moving on to the next one, but I'm glad y'all shared that with us because I don't know what relevance that has to this war, but that was hilarious. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
Oh my god. I gotta say, the horse video was worth it. I wasn't sure if it was gonna be something that we couldn't show on stream or not. I thought maybe it might be something too graphic, but I'm glad y'all brought that to our attention.
Matthew,
but
when that horse, when you're wounded on the battlefield and the Russians go, "It's okay, comrade, the ambulance is almost here," and then you hear someone say, "Peter, the horse is here." I'm dying today. I'm going to die today. And then you got like Ivan Draco in the corner loading you on. You're like, I don't want to die. And he says, if he dies, he dies. And then they load you on top of that thing and just smack its butt and just see what happens.
Oh my god.
Anyways, it's time for us to get on, I believe, into the super chats now. I think we have nothing else to cover. So with that, let's get on into those super chats.
All right, and it is time for the super chats. And up first, we have that very generous $100 super chat from Arnie YDT, who says, "You guys do an amazing job. Your effort shows, and keep up the awesome work. Thank you." And also in parentheses, for you, Matt. Pig.
Animal noises. Animal noises, Matthew.
Oink, oink, oink. Meow, meow, meow. Have some T-Bell.
Taco Bell.
Oh,
Yeah.
Taco Bell. Thank you, Arnie. And thank you for giving us such high praise, too, by the way.
And thank you so much for the support, Arnie, because that support helps us to keep this work going. And I always say that. You know what? I don't know if I should, because I'm trying to think of this out, because I'm always wanting y'all to know how much we appreciate y'all support, because I know it takes a lot to support a channel. And so I'm always saying that. Should I stop saying that? Like, should I just say thank y'all so much instead of going through the whole spill? Because I feel like I've said the spill so much, almost everyone knows it at this point.
Oh, yes.
Matthew's like, yes, stop. But anyways, thank you so much once again for the high praise, Arnie. It does mean a lot to us that you think, and a lot of people think, that we're doing an amazing job. And we try our best. I always try my best to make sure that the news is good. It shows what's actually going on, and that the news summary is well put together. What's crazy to me, and also what's crazy to people I've talked to, is that they believe that there is some kind of script behind the screen that I'm reading off while I'm doing this thing live. There is no script. And that is always something that I like pride myself on a little bit, is that I'm able to talk nonstop, enough to piss some people off on the stream, and I'm able to talk so much, and it's like one long continuous script kind of ordeal, and everything almost, if not always, ties itself together. And I gotta thank you so much for enjoying that, because I try my best to make sure that everything flows smoothly, is interesting, and also informative and somewhat entertaining here on this channel, and I'm glad to know that you do enjoy it. And so with that, and I see a lot of people actually saying yes to the spiel, and so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Arnian. It does help us keep this channel running. It helps the gears to keep on turning behind the scenes, and it wasn't for folks like you, Arnie, who support this channel the way you do, this wouldn't be possible. And so thank you so much for supporting us to keep up that awesome work, and we're going to make sure to get some Taco Bell. I've got to tell y'all, my favorite menu items at Taco Bell are the let me actually, I'm not sponsored by Taco Bell or anything, but I will pull up their menu because I know that some people like it, some people hate it. And here's the phase for all. Let me go to their menu. The burritos I like, I usually get burritos, is let me find them. The beefy melt burritos right here. I like those little crunchy Frito-Lay things inside of it. They're really good. And that's usually...
Man, like for the price, you really can't beat it. Like $2 for 620 calories. That's like the best value on the menu, I think.
It's phenomenal, and I've actually gotten this meal enough times. I know the exact price. It is $4.34 in our area for 2 beefy melt burritos and a cup of water. That's an exorbitant deal because not only do you get really filled up off of 2 beefy melt burritos, they're fairly good for what they are, and also you get a whole cup of water with it. Like, what better can you get for that? But, you know, some people like Taco Bell, some people hate it. I'm a big fan of Taco Bell, and I gotta say, the beefy melt burritos are my go-to when I go there. And so with that, I thank you so much once again, Arnie. I'm going to make sure to get myself some of those, thanks to your support. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you for being a longtime channel viewer. I believe you are an old guard, and for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And Jack Jones said, is that actually real food in that thing? Well, Jack, allegedly.
But
it's all good, though. It's just $2 for a little burrito. I mean, it's not like you can expect, you know, like top tier meat, I guess. It would be nice, but you know, we get stuck with whatever that is.
You know the video that we just watched of the horse ambulance? That's what happened to the horse after it did that, is that it's now a Taco Bell beefy melt burrito. But with that, we're on to the next one. I still gotta say though, even if it was horse meat, I gotta say horse meat has never tasted better for $2 a pop. And with that, we are on to the next one. But I thank you once again for the support, Arnian, and I hope we addressed that support and also that comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $50 super chat from E King, who says, the Leopard 2, no matter how cool it looks, has not performed well in actual combat. It's still better than anything Russian. Until further notice, the Abrams and Challenger are kings of the battlefield.
And E King, first off, I got to thank you so much for your first time supporting this channel. And also, Matthew, if you can in the future, make sure that if we have any first time supporters, because it now tells us, try and put that down somewhere, because I would love to make sure to recognize all of our first-time supporters, because I think that's really
King
cool.
is a first-time supporter.
He is a first-time supporter. He even shows it on his little super chat thing at the top of the text box. Like if you click on it, it has a big number 1 with balloons on it. Like, I think that's really cool. YouTube hasn't done that until literally today. So that's a really neat little addition right there. So first off, E-King, I've got to thank you so much for supporting this channel. That's a huge amount of support, especially for your first time, and it helps us to keep this thing running. It helps the gears to keep burning and turning behind the scenes, and without viewers like you, this wouldn't have been possible. It wouldn't have been possible for us to get through tonight's news because we wouldn't have been able to support ourselves to keep this channel running, and of course, it's amazing to know that we've been able to keep this channel running for nearly a year thanks to viewer support. Now, to answer your comment, I entirely agree with you. Leopard 2 is good. It looks beautiful. And I have to say, out of all of the Western tanks, it is by far the best looking one. However, I do think that it has a couple of shortcomings, and we saw those in Syria when the Turks were using them. I do believe, in my opinion, Challenger 2s and the Abrams have been proven to be some of the best. I would actually say that the Challenger 2, out of all of them, is probably the best one there is. And I know that it kind of comes as a shock because we're always talking about the Leopard and the Abrams, but that's because those two were just announced. But the Challenger was announced almost before all of them, and those tanks are unbelievably good. None of them have been destroyed except for 2 from friendly fire, and I think that actually is only one of them. And it's absolutely unbelievable to think how well the Challenger 2 has performed in combat, and that thing has been hit. And we can pull up stories of Challenger 2 surviving hits, or survivability, survive 70 RPGs. This is a true story. So let's see here. So this is on Today I Learned from Reddit. So let's see here. Let me go to the BBC. And wow, look at this. This article was posted in 2003, and the BBC website used to look like this.
Dang, this is like, how long ago was this put out?
2003. So this was during like some of the first opening days of the invasion of Iraq.
Dang, this is like some really, really like primitive HTML right here.
Yeah, I mean, like this is ancient. Actually, this was posted a year after I was born, nearly, which is kind of wild. It's that old of an article. Anyways, let's read this here. Some military experts call for the decision to be put on hold until the lessons of the Iraq War can be learned, and others say it smacked the Rumsfeld Doctrine. Anyways, we need to move on. The British Army is set to lose between 56 and 84 of its 386 main battle tanks to Challenger 2 and some of their AS-90s. They actually did lose them in the end. Their forces are now about 200 to 250 Challengers, so those tanks were slashed. But anyways, moving on. We need to find the story. So here we go. Let's see, there have been problems with the Apache. The minute there is a dust storm, it can't go anywhere, which tanks are perfectly happy in those conditions. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a tank. Apaches are not heavily armored, and it takes just one rocket-propelled grenade to bring one down. Yeah, that's kind of known. That's why you don't fly them close to guys with RPG. Anyways, compare that with one British Challenger near Basra, which survived being hit by 70 RPGs. That story is actually true, and it looks like it was actually cited here for a small bit. Not a lot of information was given in this BBC article about it, but one of these Challenger 2s got hit 70 times with RPGs from most directions. I don't think any of them hit the tank in the engine bay in the rear, but it hit on every single side. One of them hit the lower glacis, and the worst thing that came out of this is that the Challenger 2's driver got a cut on one of his toes on his foot, and that was it. And that was from spalling from the armor, taking the blow from inside the tank. So these things, I would have to say, in terms of their performance, have got to be the best in terms of armor protection, because none of them have ever been taken out, and none of them probably ever will be. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, E-King. I've got to agree with you entirely on that. The Abrams and the Challenger are the kings of the field right now, and I would definitely say the Challenger is probably a little bit above the Abrams in terms of its armor protection. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for your first time supporting this channel and helping this thing to keep on running, and I hope I addressed that comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $45 super chat from a first-time donor, Red Lamani. And thank you, Red, very much. For also, welcome to the Lee Spring Army if you're new. Red says, sent 3 super chat to figure out how to attach a message. I'm Italian, living in Whitestone, NYC. I own a small restaurant, and if you're ever in town, give me a buzz for real food. We sponsor family from Ukraine. Great people.
And that is really cool. Also, here is Whitestone in New York City. It's up here near Rikers Island, actually, which is which is the prison. Interestingly enough, Rikers Island is literally right below LaGuardia, so the aircraft pretty much fly in on final approach right outside of the perimeter of Rikers Island. You know, I wonder if
this easy access for them to escape and go over to the airport and get out of there.
Yeah. I mean, also, this is so close. Like, look. I guess you could say the pad for the runway is probably just 100 or 200 yards away from the very edge of Rikers Island. That is really weird when you think about it. But anyways, let's go over here to Whitestone and let's check out the area around Christina's Deli and Grill. Is it good? Is it bussin'? This place is classic New York. For some reason, it kind of reminds me of a town we used to live in, Matthew, like a small town, but it's like huge.
Yeah, somewhat. Well, I'll take it back. This is an entirely different style of architecture. We've got that, like, you know, stereotypical, like, southern little thing going on in the old town that we lived in.
This kind of looks like Old Town like Old Town New England style, in a way.
Yeah, I like this style better.
Also, look at this thing. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that is pretty neat. I think we have one of those here in Birmingham.
I think we do. New York is a really interesting place. It's really neat. And I've got to say, wow, nice church, too. Pretty cool all around. This place is pretty neat. Also, look at that really nice Acura. Look, there's another one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the new Acura is, like, speaking of cars, it's my favorite topic. they've really done a good job. It's like when Audi went through a really bad design phase, and then all of a sudden they just flipped around, hired a new designer, and fixed their cars, and now they look pretty cool. Acura did the same thing recently.
You know, I wonder, Matthew, if the car companies have like an annual meeting where they get like the worst car designer and they just throw them around from company to company. Because after Audi fixed their crap, BMW just shot their designs in the back of the head, and now they look terrible.
That's the worst decision the Germans have ever made. Bring a French guy in to design a German car.
I got to agree with you. That has got to be the worst thing that BMW's ever done. I don't think they'll ever recover from that here in the next few years because the new BMWs are absolutely hideous. If they were smart, they would immediately eat the cost of backtracking and going with the former designs and just making some improvements and revisions to those, because the new grills on the brand new BMWs are absolutely horrendous in their look. They're terrible.
Oh, atrocious.
Matthew and me are like car snobs. Oh, atrocious, my boy. But still, I thank you so much.
And also, Jonathan, Acura is the like luxury division of Honda, and kind of like Lexus is the luxury division of Toyota.
And very interesting note that Matthew threw out there. And getting back to the support that Red threw in, if we are in the area of New York City, and I've been thinking, Matthew, if I ever had the time, I might try and travel around and make a video in other parts of the country, like in person, but I don't know, like especially right now in this semester of college, that would be impossible. Maybe during the break I could, but if I'm ever in the area, I will make sure to drop by, give you a little ring, and then go to Grubhub Perks and give you the deals on the foods you love, the kind of deals that make you want to boogie. But anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, and also giving your restaurant a little shout out. I think that's pretty cool, and also a really neat place in New York that you live in Whitestone. That's actually, for some reason, I'm always wanting to think that Whitestone is close to Coney Island, but that is nowhere near close. That's like on the other side of Long Island. You would have to take quite a trip to get to Coney Island. Also, did you know that Coney Island's down here, Matthew?
I actually did. I want to go to New York one day. I know people say it's crappy and stuff like that, but I just want to see it for myself.
I don't believe any of that, because we always drop down on Street View and places and everything looks pretty okay. I would have to go to New York City and see, because for 8 million people to be living there, and I think the city population is still growing, New York City population, and let's check. It spiked in 2020 and then dropped in 2021. It's been keeping actually kind of consistent since 2001. It's been fairly the same size for a good while. But for that many people to be living there and not a lot of people like leaving in an exodus and it's still growing, it can't be that bad. And then watch us go there and be like, oh, it's bad. But it probably is.
The rude people is the only thing that makes me apprehensive about going there. Like, I've heard horror stories of people getting in fist fights on vacation and going there.
Hey, I'm walking in. But, I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe those are just stories. I don't know. But we'll have to eventually go there and see, because I'd like to see for myself. Also, Matthew, by the way, did you know that the first theme parks in the world started on Coney Island?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they actually the first ones ever. I guess you could say, in a way, Disney World wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for Luna Park on Coney Island. And you can still see Luna Park's been brought back, but it's not the old Luna Park that used to be there.
Did you know that Nathan's Hot Dog started around here?
Yeah, because it says it right there. It's right here.
I actually didn't see that. Yeah. Well, that's just probably one place they have. That's probably not the original place.
Yeah, it literally says right here, this is the original.
I think they mean this is the original hot dog. I don't know if that's the original building.
No, I think
it could be. I don't know.
I think that is, Matthew. Matthew, you need to shut your clam. Like it says clam bar.
Let's go to the clam bar.
Let's
at
go
Nathan's.
And also, have you ever heard about the giant pig hotel? Let me pull this up. Let me make sure I'm right. Coney Island giant pig. One second. Pig hotel. Oh man, I gotta find this hotel. Giant animal hotel thing. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, I found the pictures of it. This is a funny story. All right, so this thing existed in Coney Island during the early 1900s. So remember, at the start of Coney Island, like in the 1880s and the 90s, this was like the place where questionable people would go. So they built this giant like elephant hotel thing, and it kind of was successful at the start, but after a while it kind of lost its appeal, you know, because of the giant freaky elephant, and it later turned into a brothel.
That's a plot twist, I would say.
I'm gonna go find me a hooker. Where are you going? To the giant elephant, damn it. Where else do you go in this city? And then it burned down. Yeah, you were right, Timmy Knock. This thing actually burned down later on. But for a while, oh, you can actually see an illustration of the elephant burning down right there.
Oh my god, that looks horrific. Like a horror movie.
There needs to be a whole movie made on early Coney Island's history, because it was crazy from start to finish. But yeah, this is one of the interesting things about Coney Island, was that damn elephant, and you could see it from everywhere. It was huge. Like, this thing was massive. Like, here's an illustration of it here, and you could tell, like, in scale, how big it was compared to normal people.
Dang, that's nuts. Like, and why did it burn down? Was it just like an idiot, or did they throw a cigarette or something?
Everything burned down in Coney Island back in the early 1900s. Everything caught on fire. Like, even, I think in the end, every single theme park on Coney Island would end up burning to the ground at one point or another. They would be rebuilt, and then eventually they just stopped rebuilding the parks after they burned down, and they just left them.
Oh, well.
Yeah, but, and also this is another thing, Matthew, I never thought about. I think this hotel existed well into the 20s, if I'm correct. If it didn't, tell me if I'm wrong. But imagine if the Titanic had actually made it on its maiden voyage to the United States, it would have been greeted by this giant elephant brothel as it made its way into New York Harbor, because that thing is literally like at the lip. Like, the Titanic would pass by that giant elephant and then make its way to Manhattan Island, where it would dock. So you would have seen
You know something it could have been? It could have been the very first sighting of the Russian cigarette smoker. Trister once said it was probably a careless Russian soldier.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. And that's actually a good point. But with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, and also shouting out your little pizza restaurant, and I'll make sure to have some if we go up there. And so thank you so much once again for the support, Red, and thank you for joining, well, being a member. Everyone's a member. As long as you just want to be a member of the Lee Spring Army, you can be. You don't have to throw in a super chat for that, but thank you so much for supporting us, so that way the Lee Spring Army can keep marching forward. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support.
All right, and the next one goes to Psyops, who put in a $40 donation, and thank you very much, Psyops, for that. If you're still here, that is. I think you're still here, hopefully. Psyops says, please take 2 questions from the chat.
And thank you so much for the support, Psyops. But you know the rules, Psyops. We can only take one.
Well, he put in 2 super chats, by the way. I just combined them.
I thought it was just one. We will make sure to take 2 questions from the live chat. And thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops, and helping this channel to keep on running. And also sorry for the misunderstanding there. And so with that, let's get on to the first live chat.
All right, and the first question goes to Susan Lowell, who says, what is your guess on the secret plane being sent?
I would have no idea. There are so many aircraft in the Western arsenal. It could practically be anything. It's not going to be anything classified, though. It's not going to be an F-22 or an F-35 or anything similar to that. It will probably be something more mundane in, I guess you could say, in the public eye. It'll probably be like an F-16, maybe F-18s. That's something that's been thrown around a little bit because the Swiss use them a pretty good deal, and the F-18s are rated for some really rugged flying, and really just landing. So I think that those could possibly be sent. And so with that, I hope that answers that live chat fairly well, but I'm thinking it'll probably be F-16s or F-18s, or I could be entirely wrong, because there's like a million Western aircraft that could possibly be sent. And with that, we are on to the next live chat question.
And the next one goes to JB, who puts in a question that says, do you think the M4 platform is going to replace their AKs?
I think that the M4 platform will eventually replace the AKs, considering that there's 2 weapons that are prevalent in the world, either the AK or the M4 or the M16, whichever one you want to call it. Really the M4 in the modern times, but if you're friends with the Russians or you're anti-American, you get AKs. If you're more American-leaning, you get some kind of version of the M4, or you make your own gun. And so that means that in the future, we'll probably see, now that Ukraine is more West-leaning or in pro-American, we'll probably see that they eventually phase out their AKs in replacement. Well, they'll replace their AKs with M4s. That most likely will be the natural progression of their small arms as time goes by. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. Really good one, actually, and I do think it will be heading towards the direction of the M4. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope that does address that fairly well. Jack Jones just said musket. Yeah, they're going to be going to the Brown Bess. They're going to be pulling a freaking Boston Massacre up in here with a Brown Bess musket. All right, jolly old chap, give him a little bit of a round, eh? It just blows him away with a 75 caliber musket ball. But with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope we answered that fairly well. And thank you so much once again, Sias, for helping this channel to keep on running and also sponsoring those 2 live chats. And so with that, we are on to, guess what, the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Streb, who puts in a $25 super chat, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that is Streb's first super chat. So thank you, Streb. And Streb says, when do you think fighter jets like the JAS and F-16, etc., will arrive in Ukraine?
Great question. And honestly, I always say this, and I hate to say it, but I never want to give anyone an answer just because I want to feel like I know every answer. I don't really know, because the F-16s were on the table strongly within the first few months of the war, and now we're in our 12th month, and we are not seeing F-16s on the horizon right now. They're being brought up again, but we don't really know if they're going to be sent. So it could be never, could be in a few months. If I had to take a guess, I would expect it would probably be another 2 to 3 months at least if they ever get sent. And I would just give it about that time and then revisit it from there. And if 3 months has passed and they're still not up on the list, I would say it probably will never be sent. But I'm not gonna strike that off the list completely. And I definitely think that there should be aircraft like the F-16 and the Gripen sent to Ukraine, because those will help them out to an unbelievable level. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. Also, thank you for this being your first time supporting this channel. It means a lot to us, because with y'all support, we're able to keep things running behind the scenes. We're able to keep the lights on. We're also able to eat, and that means a lot to us, because y'all are helping us to literally survive, so that way we can keep running this channel. And so thank you so much once again. I hope we answered that question fairly well, at least with some decent knowledge put into it. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again. But before we get on to the next one, someone said New York City history is crazy. It is. A lot of American cities' histories are crazy, like they're literally insane, but New York really has to take the cake, especially in between the 1870s to the 1920s, and that was like the weirdest city ever. Like there's nothing that could top New York City in between those time frames. But with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Mike D, who puts in a $21 donation and says, have you seen the M104 Wolverine?
And it looks like we've finally reconnected. That's weird. But let's see, the M104 Wolverine. Let me, M104. I think I've heard of it before. I think I may remember it.
And also, I don't think I got the whole thing out.
Oh, go ahead and reread it again.
All right, so just a second here. Let me make sure that we are back. And also, let me grab one more thing I saw from the chat. There we go. Put that in the spreadsheet. All right, and then we're back.
Yay! And let's hear that thing again, man.
Mike says, have you seen the M104 Wolverine? It's built on an Abrams chassis and could prove useful where there are weak bridges. I'm curious if this will make its way to Ukraine.
I do believe that these will make their way to Ukraine. I have heard of them before. I have also seen them before. I was right. For some reason, I think I was thinking about the M110 in my head for a little bit, which is a big-ass, for lack of a better word, howitzer that the U.S. used to use for a while. This thing's huge. But yes, I have seen this M104 Wolverine as well. These things are pretty neat. You can actually see one here on an instruction manual, laying out the bridge and then using an actual Abrams to cross it. It's a very neat system. A lot of countries have some form of this kind of bridge laying vehicle, whether it's a Leopard base hull or something similar. But yes, I have seen this thing. They are really cool, and I think that we will eventually see these in Ukraine, because this kind of supporting infrastructure for their military is crucially important, and it would just make a whole lot of sense to eventually send something like that. And so with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support. And these things are pretty cool. I love bridge laying vehicles. I just find the concept of a portable bridge that can be installed within minutes to be really interesting in its own right, and these things are neat. I really like them. I forgot the German like variant that does this, but let me pull it up real quick. The German tank bridge layer. Here we go. This is the thing right here. You can see that this is actually on a Leopard 1 hull, but it has almost the exact same kind of bridge that it lays out on top of it. Also, we can see one right here, apparently from German times, back in the Second World War, that also did the same job. It was also a bridge layer, which is really neat as well.
Oh, that's a 135 scale model.
Yeah, pretty good. How much is it? Oh, this is on Pinterest. This is probably like some custom-made thing that this guy... Oh, man, that sucks. I thought it was a kit. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then also, here's a Leopard 2 that also does... Holy moly. Dude, that's like what? Like the Golden Gate Bridge it's carrying on top of it?
Yeah, seriously.
Dude, that like the Ukrainians make...
Look at those spotlights on it.
I don't think those are spotlights. I think those are like some kind of supports.
I was trying to fool you.
Those honestly look like buffers on railroad cars in Germany.
Yeah, it really does.
Dude, the Ukrainians make it to the Dnieper River and they go, oh no, how are we supposed to cross this river? And then you heard, I can do it, yeah. And then you just see this thing pop up. We lay out an entire bridge across the Dnieper River from one side to the next. But still, really impressive. And I gotta say, bridge laying vehicles are really cool in my opinion. And it's a good thing you pointed this thing out because it is neat. And I think we will see them in Ukraine eventually. And so with that, we are on to the next one, but thank you so much once again for your continued support and helping this channel to keep running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, yeah?
And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Beta Waves NY. He says, hi guys, what are your thoughts on Putin dropping a nuclear bomb on Kyiv or Lviv and creating a posture of absolute evil, basically going all in and thus warning the rest of the world what's to follow? With any tried retaliation, he drops another.
And I thank you for the support, Beta Waves. And to answer that question, I think if he dropped a nuclear bomb on Kyiv or Lviv, the entire world would condemn him. The Chinese, which have stayed anti-Russian, but hardly anti-Russian, would completely condemn them at that point because that would be an outright egregious act. I don't think anyone in the world, even the Chinese, could stand for something like that. The Russians would lose practically all of their backing, all of their friends around the world. We may even see the Belarusians go, oh, wow, that was a little bizarre. That was a little nuts. You would also see the United States enter the war immediately. We've already laid out pretty much a form of guarantee to Ukraine that if any nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons are used within their borders, we will enter the war immediately on their side, and at that point, we would certainly enter. So if the Russians threaten to drop a second one because of our joining of the war, we would probably just start to bombard the Russians inside of the Russian Federation and try and hit anything of strategic importance through an air campaign. So that would be my opinion on that. I feel like that's highly unlikely because the Russians know what will happen if they drop a nuclear weapon, and it's not going to be good. The United States practically gets involved immediately, and that's an already losing war for them from the first day, for the opening 24 hours. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support, Beta Waves New York. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And if that question is supposed to be asking, is there anything to be concerned about if the Russians did that, I would take no concern at all because the United States would respond in a very fast, single, swift motion. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, Beta Waves NY. And I think that NY in your name stands for New York. And are you also from New York? Are you also from New York City? Are you from the Bronx? Are you from Manhattan? Let's drop down in Manhattan. Let's see what this place looks like. Right here, yeah? Oh, wow, this looks nice.
It does look nice, actually.
Dang, look at that, wouldn't you? It's real nice, you know what I mean? Like, I like these little...
Also, by the way, real quick, before anybody says anything about it, That's a typo in the first choice on the poll. I didn't mean to say they boy cried wolf too much. I meant to say the boy cried wolf too much, but it got auto-corrected.
Aw, Matthew, what the hell are you doing? Also, Matthew, have you ever seen the New York City Town Hall?
No, I haven't.
Let me find it for you here, because it's a really nice building. Here we go. New York City City Hall. This is the City Hall.
Oh, wow, that's very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice, I'm telling you. And look at the inside. This place is nice.
Yeah. I think it looked nicer on the outside than the in, but it still looks pretty nice.
Get the hell out of here. Get out of here. Look, there's Grand Central Station. That's not even the town hall. That's like in another part of the city. But also there's this building. I forgot the name of it, but it's a beautiful building. It's like one of the first skyscrapers built in New York City, and it survived, which is crazy because there's a building in New York that I really hate they tore down, which was called the Singer Building. And this thing was beautiful. It was the tallest skyscraper in New York City until the Chrysler Building was built. It was the headquarters of the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and this thing was impressive. It was really ornate, really cool. And let me see if I can find you some more pictures of this thing here, because, like, here's the interior of the building. Like, it was just ornate. It was beautiful throughout. It was really a pinnacle of engineering and design back when this thing was made. Actually, I'm sorry, it was the tallest building in the city for, I think, a couple of years before the Woolworth building was built over here. But beyond that, it was freaking beautiful, and they tore it down in 1964 because they wanted to make room for this unimaginative looking building, and I'll find it for y'all. Let's see here. Demolition. Let's see here. Where the hell is it? Oh, they replaced the building. The Singer Building, demolition. I can't find it. What the hell? Like, they gotta be kidding me right here. I can't find it. It's an unoriginal, uncreative building. It doesn't look that good. Wait a minute, we can actually find where it was. So let me just go here. It's right here. Okay, so near Church Street, Liberty Street, bus stops. So let me go over there. So, Church Street, Liberty Street. Church Street, Liberty Street, bus stop. Nope, that's Church Duane. Church Liberty. That can't be it. That's Church and Chambers. Where that? Oh, okay, wait, hang on. Let me just go back to this map real quick. We'll find the little parks. So there's that big park. So there's that big park. So we go down here. It should be somewhere like right here. Here it is. Here it is. This is it, I believe. Yep, that's it. So let me show you all this. I'll drop down on Street View. This is the building they replaced the Singer Building with. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's this one right here. That's the building they replaced the Singer Tower with.
That's a very, very, very rigid looking building.
Yeah, it's a huge downgrade too in design. Like, look how pretty the Singer Building was right here. And they replaced it with this.
I'm actually kind of a fan of this drab, kind of mundane looking architecture.
I'm not. I'm not a fan of it at all. I don't like this one bit. They did it for more floor space because the tower on this one was very narrow, and, you know, they could use the land a lot better if they made the building just larger at its base all the way up to the top, but I still like this one more. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. If you are from New York, I hope that added a little bit of interesting story to where you're from, because I think the NY in your name does stand for New York. But thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we also addressed that question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
And up next, Psyops put in another $20 super chat earlier. He said, Matt, slap him for dare slandering his savior of Bert. We won't stand for it.
I think people will have to stand for it. You know what? Let me pull a page out of a book of another channel around. Let's see. Let me start cussing out viewers and telling them not to know the channel. But anyways, thank you so much for the support. Hey, and I gotta say this at the end of the day. Everyone's got their own opinions. I think the A-10's good. I think it requires a lot of support, though, to work well. So just keep that in mind. I don't think it's a bad plane, though. I know that everyone always says that I hate the A-10. I don't hate the A-10. I think it's neat. I think it's really cool. But I do understand its limitations, and we have to work with them. And so with that, Thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And gee, man, if only they would respond to my messages on Discord. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who sadly does not leave a comment, but left a super sticker. And I have to admit, Panama, I did not make a note about what the super sticker was about, sadly. But thank you very much for the support. And Panama, it's good to see you as always. And Enforcer, what say you?
And of course, the Floyd of Panama. Oh, two chairs. It's good to see you around.
Two chairs.
If y'all don't know what we're talking about Floyd the barber from Andy Griffith. Like that's the joke. But I thank you so much once again, Panama Floyd. Love the name. I think that's a really cool name. And also, Panama's a pretty neat place. And also, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for a viewer like you, this channel wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Has anyone ever realized how little work it really took to make the Panama Canal? Like, when you look at it, like look, here's the first series of locks over here, and I think they only built these originally. This one lock set right here. They built that.
Nah, man, I think that was a lot of work. That was a lot of work on that canal.
Not as much work as the Suez Canal. I'll say that, like, off the bat. I will die on that hill. The Panama Canal was some work, yes. But it wasn't as much work as the freaking Suez Canal, because you actually had to dig countless miles. This whole entire thing is not natural. All of this had to be built from the start up. And they had to build it all the way through the desert and then all the way out to the other side. No locks involved or anything like that, so it was a little bit easier in that regard, but still, that was a lot. In the Panama Canal, all they had to do was just generally cut into the Gatun Lake and then just make some locks that brought the ships in there, and that was it, and their job was done.
I think it took a lot of work to create both of them. Like, I'm sure that the Panama Canal had challenges that you really can't see, like, from the map view here, that they probably had to spend years working on.
That's true. That is true. I won't lie. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, Panama Floyd. And I hope we gave you a huge credit with the Panama Canal. We're going to name the Panama Canal after you, Panama Floyd. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And Trister once said, Enforcer Matt, that's because Enforcer didn't have to wield the shovel. And that's right, he didn't have to wield the shovel, nor did he have to wield the bobcat either. So the Enforcer can just shove it.
Anyways,
you're
right.
Up next, we have. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead, man. Whatever. You know what I mean.
So up next, we have a $20 super chat from Fly Equals Fly, who says, "Here's $20. No questions from the chat. Get some sleep tonight. 07. Love what you guys do." And thank you, Fly.
Thank you so much, Fly, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, if it wasn't for you, this channel wouldn't have been able to keep going. And you said take no questions from the chat. That is interesting. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And also, thank you so much for enjoying this channel and helping us to keep running. Also, as Activista, I have to read this one, Matthew. Activista said, "No, that is wrong. The Suez Canal designer actually disagrees with you. That is just ignorant and uninformed. Enforcer and I will die on that hill. Talk to the Panamanians." Wait a minute, hang on. Enforcer and I will die on that hill.
Wait a minute. I think they mistyped something because that doesn't add up.
Yeah, because it sounds like they're disagreeing with me, but they're also saying them and me will die on the same hill. I don't understand.
I don't get it. I don't understand.
I was going to sit here and start talking about it and start negating my own thing, but I don't know if you agreed with me or disagreed with me. So with that, we are on to the next one. Also, we're just kidding with you, Activists. Don't take it as I'm like calling you out and like getting in a fight with you. I'm just kidding around with you. But with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, we have about 35 super chats to get to.
Are you kidding me?
No. But real quick, we have to go over this poll. Has Putin's nuclear card, aka nuclear threat, been completely exhausted? And 72% said yes, they boy cried wolf too much. 7% said unsure, and 20% said no, it still holds serious weight. I'm going to say that I'm unsure, because nukes are no laughing matter, but at the same time, they boy has cried wolf a little too much in my opinion. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I'll say I would agree with that to a large margin, but due to the amount of super chats, we're going to have to move on back into the questions.
All right, so the Enforcer is abstaining from the vote. So moving on to our next super chat, we have a $20 donation from Davis Campbell, who says, "Any response from the Ukrainian government in regards to your letter?"
Unfortunately, the letter never made it through, so I have to go and make a second one here in the future. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the question fairly well and somewhat concise. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Rad Doctor, who says, pretend you have a crystal ball and have to make a future prediction. When and how will the war end? What will Ukraine look like? And what will happen to Russia? I know this is impossible, but use your enforcer power.
All right. So we're going to, I don't crystal ball much. I'll crystal ball for you. So let me make the disclaimer real quick. This will probably not happen. The chances of this exact scenario occurring is almost next to none, because none of them really have a chance of occurring until we get close to the last minute, and then we finally see what will really happen. But to crystal ball into the future, I believe that this war will probably be going on beyond late summer at this point. It seems as though somehow the Russians are hanging on a little bit. They are losing everything they have, but they're still somehow managing. So it'll probably go on beyond late summer. We'll probably see this going on into the end of this year or the beginning of next year, and the war will then finally end. It will most likely end with the Ukrainians pushing the Russians out of the country and a never-ending stalemate ensuing where there is a ceasefire, but there is no official peace agreement. So the Ukrainians, by that end, will still be in an active war. They won't be allowed to join NATO. The Russians will ensure that, and the Russians, of course, will deal with massive economic damage. They will not split into multiple pieces, however. They will mostly stay as one intact country, but they will be like Spain during the Francisco Franco period, where economic recession was just the name of the game, and the Russians will probably end up being a very poor country that doesn't even get to compete on a regional scale anymore, and they become less than a regional power. We'll probably see that they become a puppet of the Chinese in the future after the war is over, due to their economic hardships and the Chinese trying to float their economy and also extract their resources. That's most likely the way I see this war ending in the future. But I do think in the end, Ukraine will be able to reclaim everything, but Sevastopol is still a question that is up in the air for me about the port access right stuff. So I can't really give a clear answer on that, but I hope I crystal balled that fairly well. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Trister1, who says, why even bother to see if there's no music? Keep it up, guys. And thank you, Trister.
And thank you, Trister, for the support. And I always check to see if we have music or not, because some people are like, this one doesn't have any music, mute it, what the hell are you doing? You know, and then some people want to hear it, and I also want to hear the sounds as well if there is no music. So that's why we do check. But still, thank you so much once again for the support, Trister. You have helped out this channel a great deal in running, and I hope we were able to address that support fairly well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, Sean Tiz puts in a 20 and says, Putin wears lifts and has a pimp walk.
And thank you so much for the support. And I think he does wear some pumps, and he does do the pimp walk too. He also does like this gun walker gait thing where he keeps one hand steady at his side like he's got a gun, which is honestly kind of cringe. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does answer the question fairly well. Someone's about to say he's an ex-KGB agent, but is he one now? No, he's not. So that looks kind of goofy. That's like me walking in with the cowboy boots and spurs on going, you know, I used to live where cowboys roamed. I don't anymore. There's hardly any cowboys. I wasn't one. So that's just kind of dumb to do. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support, and I would entirely agree with you.
All right. So up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd once again. Two chairs. Panama says, Hiram Slava, thanks for running the speech every night, guys, and gotta go. Take one from the chat.
And thank you, two chairs, for the support, and also thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. I'm glad that you do enjoy us running the speech nightly, and also thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep rolling. If it wasn't for a viewer like you, Panama Floyd, it wouldn't have been possible for us to keep this thing going. And so, did he want us to take a question from the live chat?
Yes.
All right, so let's get it.
All right, so the question from the live chat goes to, let's see. It goes to Bobo Uzala, who says, imagine the sight and sound of the F-16 Eagles flying low, saluting the skies of Kyiv on their way to Donbass. Will this be Ukraine's Independence Day?
I don't know, Bobo Azula. That's a great question. I will say this, though. I have heard the sound of F-16s in real life. It was not the F-16 aerobatics team. It was actually some F-16s from the Alabama Air National Guard at an air show that was doing this whole ground support thing. Remember it, Matthew? Like, where they would come in and they would fire the 20mm Vulcan. They had, like, the... like incendiary thing on the other side of the airfield do like its whole show. That was really cool. And we've heard those things roar over before, and they have quite the sound. They are mean sounding, and I love the F-16s. So I think that we probably will see them in the country in the future, but it's not going to be the near future. Most likely it'll be 3 to 4 months out from here. And so with that, we are on to the next one. I hope we answered that question fairly well, Bobo Azula. And also, thank you so much once again, Panama Floyd, for supporting this channel and also helping us to address a live chat. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Strategos, who puts in a $15 super chat. And I believe, hopefully I'm not about to offend anybody, but I believe Strategos is a new super chatter. So if you are, and I am correct and I remember that properly, welcome to the... what do we say again?
Lee Spring Army. Matthew is so scared that we've gotten that wrong because I think we got that wrong once before. Just for those of y'all to know why we're always reluctant to say that, we got that wrong once before, and a viewer went, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't remember me? I've been around forever."
They went berserk, and they've been around forever, and they went berserk, and they left, and they started cussing us out, so it went badly wrong.
So that's why we're always scared. And so if you are new, welcome to the Lee Spring Army. If you aren't, we're sorry we got that wrong. Do not take that personally. But I'm fairly certain with Matthew, I think it said it was your first time supporting tonight, but I may be wrong. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel.
Oh, Strategos has been here since day one, but it's okay. Oh,
Matthew. All right, that's
well,
it.
you just confirmed what I said, though. Don't try to back out of it now.
Listen, I never knew
You're already
this guy.
practicing to be a politician.
I never knew this guy. I never even knew him. He was in your cabinet, though. Yes, but I never knew him. I never talked to him. Who's this guy? I don't know. But anyways, Matthew, we're going to have you face the wall. Smile for the camera. But anyways, sorry, Strategos, we got that wrong. But thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I think there was another person that is in the list right now. It was their first time supporting, and I think we're trying to find them right now. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. And I'm sorry that we got that wrong.
Did we ever read the question, though?
I don't think we did.
Strategos says, Challenger 2 is the best looking of them all, and that's what really matters.
And I agree. It looks is all that matters, right? That sounds so superficial. But the Challenger 2 is a great looking tank. Right here. Look at that thing. It's beautiful. Look at that thing. It's beautiful.
It's nice, but leopard sleek.
But this thing is beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. This guy's even got a lawn chair. It's great. It's beautiful.
That thing's huge. That really puts it in perspective when you sit next to it.
Yeah, that thing's massive. It's a behemoth of a tank. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Strategos. I have to agree with you. I think the Challenger 2 is one of the best looking. I still think the Leopard 2 beats it out, but this one is a close second. I think the Abrams is honestly the least attractive looking of them all, but it has this rugged look to it that gives it its own beauty and charm in its own way. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we answered that question fairly well.
And also, I just got to say real quick, Christina Law is absolutely thrilled that I responded to her question just a second ago, so I'm glad to hear it. But anyways, up next, we have a $15 super chat from Timothy Gaskell, who says, I've been listening since about day 17, but I missed when the Igor meme showed up. Is it somehow a reference to Igor Girkin, the FSB veteran involved in annexing Crimea and organizing the DPR?
Great question, and I thank you so much for the support. The Igor meme comes around from a man who's commanding the unit Madyar's Birds, which is a drone-based unit. The name of the man in question is Madyar. He's actually the commander of the unit, and he goes over frontline analysis of what their drones were able to do and also coordinates and operates them. And whenever they hit something in a certain video, he goes, "Oh, блядь, Igor!" And that became the meme. It's actually in our intro now. Like, if you watch the Lee Spring Army sends its regards, and then it fires the gun, right after that, you actually hear the little clip where that whole entire meme came from. So to answer that question, that's where it comes from. It's not a reference to Igor Gherkin, who's the guy we were talking about earlier that I couldn't think of the name of. But that was a very good guess. That was a really educated guess, actually. Probably a better explanation to it than we have for it. But with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Raphael Schneeves, who says, the reason why the U.S. is not sending the M1 with DU armor is the concern of the Russians capturing it, and the Russians and Chinese are developing a new, more efficient APS FSD round that could defeat DU armor.
And thank you for the support, and that is the reason why I would not want them to be sent over with the depleted uranium in it, but I don't know what would come in replacement to the depleted uranium armor. Still, I thank you so much for the support and also sharing that with us, because that is true and it is also a national security issue. So for that reason, we cannot allow depleted uranium armored Abrams to be sent to Ukraine because of that. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we did address that fairly well, and thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for viewers like you, this wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Jay Byrne for putting in a $10 donation, but without a comment. And Jay Byrne, thank you very much for being a longtime viewer, and thank you for supporting the channel for a very long time. We appreciate you very much. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from James Lynn, who says, the U.S. can support the Leopard 2 with fuel and ammo, same type. JP-8 will run in a Leopard 2. It is a high-grade diesel. Other parts, no.
And thank you so much for the support and sharing that with us. It's good to know what kind of fuels can work and what kind of tanks. And thank you so much once again for clearing that up for us and also getting us a little bit of information in that regard. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you for adding that in so we can know that going forward. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support. And of course, being a Lee Spring Army soldier.
All right, and up next we have another one from Raphael Schneeves, who puts in another $10 donation and says the gas turbine engine is easier to maintain and it needs less maintenance than a piston engine. It is also lighter than a piston engine. The downside is fuel consumption, but with an APU, it's the same.
And thank you so much for the support. And we're getting a lot of input tonight on how the Abrams jet turbine is actually fairly effective. And I thank you so much once again for the support. And also bringing that up, because it is good to know that we are correct. The Abrams and all of the myths that have been surrounding it about how difficult it is to maintain are not that true. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And thank you so much for adding in a little bit more information so that way we know what the Abrams really is about. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have another super chat from Trister1, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you for the continued support, Trister, who says F-18 or Gripen because they're better in short, rugged runways, ? Ukraine can't build long, smooth runways without Russian artillery spoiling it.
And I thank you for the support. I think the F-18 may be the better option there. The F-18, I believe, is about the same price as a Gripen, and it's also multi-role. It's more multi-role than a Gripen is, and so it may be better for the Ukrainians to get an F-18 than a Gripen. And we know that the F-18s have already been exported to the Swiss. The Swiss have bought some of them from the United States, and so it's not that far stretched to say we could send some to Ukraine. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Trister. I would entirely agree. It is going to be the Gripen or the F-18, and in between those two, I would say the F-18 would probably be the better pick in my opinion. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support. Also, I'm going to have to say this for one of the first times ever. We're going to have to put a cutoff on tonight's Super Chats. I believe we have like 20-something of them probably left to cover, and we are starting to run out of time very quickly. So beyond this point, we will not be able to read off any new Super Chats that are thrown in. And
Enforcer, I think, is very serious about this one, so please don't spam it.
Yes, because I have...
the Enforcer has to wake up very early, and he'll get very, very tired and worn out, and he might not be able to do the stream tomorrow if he's too tired.
So I'm going to have to be serious on this one tonight. Like, I can't laugh and joke about it and read off others. I have to get up pretty much, I believe, 5 hours after I go to sleep, and that's on a very good schedule after the stream ends. So I cannot read off more Super Chats than we have right now because we're probably going to really be pushing it, covering the Super Chats we already have. So we're going to answer all of those. We're going to answer some live chats, but at this point on, we're going to have to put a cutoff on tonight's super chats. If you want to support this channel and you want to have a question answered and you want to throw in a super chat for that, make sure to come to tomorrow night's stream and throw one in then. But for tonight, we're going to have to put a cutoff on here. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Vlad Lozo111, who says, thanks for helping my country.
And thank you so much for the support, and we are more than happy to help out Ukraine because, of course, we support Ukraine. Y'all are fighting a just war against an unjust enemy, and of course, we want to make sure to put that enemy down into the ground because we don't really like him that much either. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for enjoying the efforts that the Leaf Spring Army and this channel has gone through to help out Ukraine. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again.
All right. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Rotormax, who says, have you guys heard that Putin is trying to work a deal with the Taliban and get a hold of American equipment left in Afghanistan?
I have not heard that, and I actually, interestingly enough, the Taliban actually condemns the Russians and this current war, so unless if they're really desperate for money, which they probably are, they most likely will not help them out in that end or that aim. But then again, I haven't really heard about it, so I don't really know. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, Dallas Boracua 21C puts in a $10 peace offering and says, can we have a truce on the A-10?
Thank you for the support. And we can have a truce on the A-10. We'll just leave it as is. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and beginning the era of peace on the A-10.
All right. And with the era of peace in full swing, up next, big shout out to Marion Deemert, who puts in a $10 donation, but without a comment. And Marion, thank you very much once again for that support, and we appreciate it very much. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Raphael Schneeves once again. Let's see here. I don't know if I'm reading like too deeply into this or not, but I think it might be a topic that we can't read off, but I'm sending it to the Enforcers Discord DM right now.
We will check it. We will put it on review. It's not that bad. So I'll read it off real quick. I've been learning some Catholic apologetics. I'm even considering becoming a priest, probably a military chaplain. A great channel for Catholic apologetics is the Council of Trent. God bless. And thank you so much for the support. Fairly interesting to hear. And if you do become a military chaplain, I hope you have a fun time with that. That is a very interesting position in the military. And usually most servicemen that I talk to have high respect and reverence for military chaplains. So if you do that, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope it goes quite well. And also a very interesting choice in your life. And so thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And I, of course, wish you once again the best of luck on that pursuit. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And the next one goes to Mr. Diggs, who puts in a $10 donation and says, I did think I would or could go over to Ukraine. It's becoming harder and harder to think like an OG like me would even matter. It seems like another fundraiser for quick, small housing could help a lot. LSA.
And thank you so much for the support. And I would say it's always really hard to think about going over. I got to be honest with y'all. The more I've seen this war and what it is on video, the less and less I've been gung-ho to say, oh, I could go over there in a minute and just go and fight on the front lines. Because when you see the horrors of war every day for 338 days on video and you really see what happens to people, you sit there and think, dang, it is easy to get killed out there. You can get killed in a split second off of one bad decision. And of course, watching these videos, you get an idea of what kind of decisions are really bad decisions. And then you also sometimes see that it doesn't matter how good your decisions are. Sometimes you just get screwed because it's just your time. And I got to tell you, it's rough. I've really got to give a lot of credit to the Ukrainian soldiers and volunteers that are over there, though. They are doing something that is truly remarkable and takes a lot of bravery and courage to do each and every day, because I know that they're also that terrified as well. No one is fearless, but they have the courage to keep doing it every single day. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And of course, we'll be running our typical Sunday fundraiser, so make sure to support it if you would like to help out the Ukrainians that way. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Dom, who says, hi, I've been watching since day 30, and I know this account is new, but I just tried on main account and it would not let me. What are the Ukrainians' losses by the day, and are they losing less?
And thank you for the support. Sadly, we do not know the Ukrainian losses. That is something that the Ukrainians have never published. So unfortunately, we can't really come up with a number. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. Unfortunately, I have to declare ignorance on an actual answer there. And also, I've seen someone who is always asking for that count. Like we actually saw him in the 10-minute countdown tonight. Once again, I'm asking. We don't have the number, so it doesn't matter. Like, not trying to be rude, but it doesn't matter how many times you ask. There is no answer to that question right now. And I'm not talking to you. I thank you for the support. I'm talking to that person who said that in the 10-minute countdown. That's asked that like 9 times now, and we've told like 8 times that we don't have a number on that. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we address why we can't answer that fairly well, and thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Indy Andy 4C, who says, shorten the spiels, we get more content in and off, in or off to bed sooner. Just a thought. Also, live chat, please.
And thank you for the support, Andy. While saying that we could cut down the streams, he asked for a live chat, which lengthens them. But yes, we could probably try and cut down the spiels, but I think a lot of people actually like the spiels from what I saw in the live chat. So it's a little bit of a mixed thing. We might continue them on because I love for people to know how much we appreciate y'all's support, because it actually lets y'all know that we're not just, you know, treating it like it's nothing. We really do respect that people enjoy this channel enough to actually support us, because that's a conscious choice y'all have to make. It's not like watching an ad or skipping an ad or something. Y'all are deciding how much this channel is worth to y'all, like Arnie Yunt putting in $100 tonight, and that is that is very impressive to us that people help us out like that. And I always want to make sure that we give them loads of credit, because I think that it's worthy of credit. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Indiana, and let's get a live chat.
And the live chat question goes to, let's see here. It goes to Marion Demert, who says, why will it take the U.S. so long to send the tanks to Ukraine? Did you already answer that one?
I think we did.
It sounds familiar for some reason.
We did, because they either they're building them brand new or they have to make export versions. And so with that, I hope we answered that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next super chat goes to, let's see here, Saint, who puts in a $10 donation. And now, see, I was about to read that off, but I think that was going to get me had. So, nice try, Saint, but you didn't quite get it. But thank you for the support. And I foiled that attempt there. But anyways, thanks for the support.
Can you send it
but
up
up
to
next,
me real quick, just to make sure? And
this is like the heist of the century.
This one's going up to review. Yeah, you. I think you were. What the hell was that? I think you were about to get ahead, but I do thank you so much once again for the support and trying to, helping to keep this channel running. But I don't think we can read that off, because I think we're about to get had. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat from Streb once again, who says, check out my town, Karlstad in Sweden.
And I think I know how to spell that. Karlstad. Yeah, I knew how to spell it. Let's check it out. Karlstad. Let's see what it looks like. I can't tell what's the old part of the town, because all of it looks fairly new. Let's just drop it down here. Let's see what it looks like here. Oh, very nice, very nice. Wow, this is really nice. Man, Sweden really, like, honestly aggravates me with how clean it is everywhere. Like, even the small towns are clean. And let's go to this little square. I feel like every town in Sweden has one of these little city squares here that are just so nice. Like all the little pavers and like the little places to sit and hang out, and there's the bus stops and everything. Every place in Sweden looks too nice. Too nice. I feel like there's no crime in Sweden. Like, crime is just non-existent. The police, like, are bored as hell because they don't really have a job. But, you know, maybe one day we'll go to Sweden, because I would love to visit this and see what it really is like, because it's beautiful up there and very clean. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope you enjoyed us checking out your town of Karlstad, Sweden, in the middle of I don't know what area or province that is of Sweden, but still, it's like in the dead middle of Sweden. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we addressed that fairly well.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Mr. Diggs once again, who says the difference between a nice guy and a good guy. The nice empathize and does not help you at all. The kind guy from New York City swears and calls you dumb names as he helps you move heaven and earth.
And thank you so much for the support. I have to say, though, that there are a lot of kind Southern people who will help you out, but they don't cuss you out. I'm just saying, like, the cussing out part, it's like, man, it's kind of not really a good thing, you know? I feel like you could be polite and help someone out, but still, you got a pretty good point. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running.
All right. And up next, let's see here. Avari wanted me to save that super chat till tomorrow, so we will. So we'll address that one tomorrow. But up next, we have a $7 donation from Logan, who says, longtime viewer, but first-time donator. Thanks for all that you two do, and please take one from the chat. And thank you, Logan. I appreciate it.
And thank you so much, Logan, for supporting this channel for the first time. That is a huge thing that people support this channel the first time, because a lot of people are always continuous supporters of this channel, like BC Skyman, Arnie Yunt, Andy Andy. There's a load. I mean, like a lot of the supporters tonight have been longtime supporters. It's always very cool to know that new people are joining in and helping to support this channel. And so I've got to thank you so much for your first time supporting this channel. I hope you've been enjoying it for a while, and we'll also make sure to get one from the live chat. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So the one from the live chat goes to, let's see here, Frank, who says, hey, Matt, do we know if freight trains can go over the Kerch Bridge?
From what we knew a while ago, they couldn't. I believe they can now. But it's still at limited numbers and limited speeds. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. It may be entirely incorrect at this point, so take it with a grain of salt. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Rocco World Domination, who puts in a $7 donation and says, you might find it interesting that there's a huge fourth-generation Ukrainian diaspora in Saskatchewan. I really can't pronounce that properly for some reason. But that's where I'm from. The area is known colloquially as the Pierogi Belt.
And thank you so much for the support. Really cool to hear. And also, Matthew, say it with me. Like let's sound it out. Sass.
No, we're not doing this.
Oh,
Are you
yeah,
crazy?
Come on. Yeah, it's easy.
That's Saskatchewan.
No, it's Saskatchewan.
We don't have time for all of this.
Aw, man, come on. I'm gonna throw you down in Saskatoon if you don't calm down. That's a funny name, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon.
Yeah, that's the name of like the largest town in Saskatchewan. It's Saskatoon. But moving on from that, I got to thank you so much for the support. Really cool to hear that there's a lot of Ukrainian fourth generation fellas up there in Saskatchewan, and also Saskatchewan looks really pretty. Let's drop down at Fond du Lac. Or Uranium. I think we'll drop down to Uranium City because that just has a more interesting name. Uranium City. Let's go drop down in the Fond du Lac. Fondle my ball. Let's see. Nothing. This kind of looks like Russia.
Wow, that was a very, very brutal to the Canadians.
Well, I mean, like, Fond du Lac, look at that. It's a really small town. I mean, like, that's in the middle of nowhere. And you're getting into the middle of nowhere in Canada to look like you're in a built-up area of Russia. So that's not bad. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. Really interesting fun fact to hear. And with that, we are on to the next one before we get the elbow because we're at the Outlook with our Davidsons and we got hit by a moose jaw. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. So up next, we have a $5 super chat from Farts, who says, hi, guys, and greetings from Amsterdam. When and how many GLSDBs will be delivered?
We don't know how many ground-launched small diameter bombs will be delivered, but we do know that it's going to be over several hundred at least. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well, and thank you once again for the support. And with that, how many do we have left?
Let's see here. About 10.
All right, and so with that, we're on to the next one. You hear me?
All right. So the next one goes to Sam, excuse me, Sam and Durand, I believe it said, who puts in a $5 donation and says, shooting trees over heads produces a secondary frag. It can cause huge amounts of disorientation and injury.
And thank you for the support, and that is true. But it is still crazy to see that none of those shells fly straight because they are hitting trees. But still, very good point. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Anthony Bestwick, who says, excuse me. Anthony says, did you see anything regarding Turkey ship hit by Russia? And did you hear about Israel sending 40 Merkava MTBs?
And hello, Anthony Bestwick. I hope you're doing well. And let me see. Israel news. I did not hear anything about Merkavas. So let's see here. It appears that there's some more stuff going on in Gaza. That's kind of normal. But I don't see any announcement about 40 Merkavas, sadly. Merkavas are pretty neat tanks. They are really cool. But I would be highly doubtful that the Israelis would publish a number like that because they're very reluctant to support Ukraine, and the support we've seen has been secretly sent. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support, Anthony Bestwick. I hope you're doing well over there. I hope you're doing all right. And I hope we answered that question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one we have is from High Tech, who puts in a $5 donation and says, hi guys, sorry I'm late. I watch your live streams later if I missed them live. I will admit I do skip forward a lot. Where the smalls from the live chat.
And thank you for the support. It's totally fine if you skip around, and it's totally fine if you're late. That's okay. That's okay. We're not going to blame you. I'm just happy you're here and watching. And to answer your little question, I don't know where the smalls are at. Sicko is always around asking about that. Joseph in Sicko, and he's always asking about it, and we don't know. We haven't never seen them. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have another super chat from Red Lamani, who puts in a $5 donation and says, hey, check out some houses in Malba in Whitestone. You looked at the worst part of town. You won't eat fast food anymore if you come to my restaurant. And if we go to New York, we're eating at Red's restaurant. That's not even a question.
Let's see. Malba in Whitestone. Where's that?
I'm not really sure. But also, Red, if we do come to the restaurant, do we get like the before hours service? Like, you know, the stuff that's not even on the menu? You remember when a particular fellow, this particular rapper fellow, I won't say his name because of all the controversy around him now, but he said that. He said, I want the stuff that's not even on the menu. And he stuck the bill to somebody else when he was ordering at a restaurant.
You know, that's just goofy. Like, restaurants have a menu for a reason. It's not like they just have secret crap they cook up for fun,
Yeah,
you know?
seriously.
Like, I don't know where this is exactly, but I see pop in games. I don't know what that is. Let's take a look at this. So it's a game shop. Dang, dude. That thing right there, that thing's got a rack. What the hell is that? Why in the world would anyone buy that? Like, I saw that picture, I was like, why in the world would you buy a figurine like that? I don't know. I mean, like, it's kind of weird. But anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support. Sadly, I cannot find that specific part of Whitestone, but we will eventually try and find it in the future. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, Red did say, I'll cook for you personally. Now that's something right there, Red. I was actually just joking, but thank you for the offer. And seriously though, if we ever do stop by New York, we'll have to stop by your restaurant, and we'll actually seriously have to do that. If we can ever get to New York, if we can ever find the time in between everything else.
Oh, wait, he said top left.
Anyways.
He said top left. We found it. Top left.
Top left?
Top left. It's up here. Let's drop down here. Oh, wow. This is actually really, really nice.
Yeah, it is actually quite nice.
Welcome to suburban America. You need like a 1950s packet to live in here. But still, I like it. It's really nice looking. It's really clean. Now, this was taken in winter, so it looks really different. But in the summer, when I met you in the summer, it looks really, really good. And so with that, thank you so much once again for clarifying where that was. And I guess that's East Egg, Matthew, compared to West Egg. Oh, because that's right over here. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you so much once again for support, Red.
Oh, and also, High Tech is Joseph M. Sika. He's just under a different name.
Oh, I literally... That must have been weird. He was like, "Oh, that's me." I'm sorry, High Tech Ninja. I didn't know that was you. Because you come in here in the Sika or Sicko account, and then we're like, "Hey," and then you come in here in that. I don't know. But you are asking about him all the time. Sadly, we still don't know. And so with that, we are on to the next one. You know what I mean?
All right. So the next one goes to Midget Hobbit, who puts in a $4 donation and said, let's see here. I think this ought to be all right. He said Biden and Zelenskyy versus Kadyrov and Lukashenko in a ring. And also, he said, thought Taco Bell uses horse meat for their food.
Well, but they may. And
allegedly.
Let's see. Lukashenko and Biden, that cancels out each other out. Zelenskyy beats Putin, so it's a win. So with that, I hope, and I'm talking about their martial skills, all right? I'm not talking about like the political side of things. I'm talking about martial skill. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you so much, Midget Hobbit.
Midget Hobbit.
For the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again. You know what I mean?
All right. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob. We have a $2 super chat from Dubsy Dabster and a $1 super chat from Seeker Gatherer. And they don't leave comments, but thank you all three for that support. And we're on to our next super chat, which goes to Angie Wilson, who puts in a 2 and says, "Woohoo!" Super chat.
And thank you so much for the support. And woohoo! And so with that, we are on to the next one. Thank you once again for the support. You know what I mean?
All right. And up next, we have a super chat from Sam and Duran once again, who puts in a 2 and says special equipment was counter battery radar by Bachmut.
And thank you so much for the support and also sharing that with us, because that is interesting to know that it was counter battery radar in the area of Bachmut. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and sharing that with us.
All right. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Paul Plonsky, who says, does Russia even have more than 500 tanks left?
I would assume yes. I believe they probably just have about 500 tanks left because they're pulling T-62s out of storage, and that's just keeping the operational number of tanks above a critical mass, just barely. And so with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And thank you so much once again for the support.
All right. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Logan, who says, new LSA art in the Discord. I hope y'all like it. And also, Logan, I did see you say that earlier, and I made a note to go check it out. Because we always check out all the artwork submitted by the viewers, because we need talent, because I'm not talented at graphic design. But thank you. And Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you so much for the support. We're going to make sure to check that out. But sadly, I don't think we can check that out right now due to the time limitations. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and making some bussin' artwork. Because I know we haven't seen it yet. I know it's good, though. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dibben, who says, China drones have machine guns. Go birds.
Thank you for the support. I don't know what the Go Birds part means, but that is interesting to hear that they got machine guns on the drones. You know what I mean? And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope we addressed that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And for our last super chat of the night, we have a $2 donation from Dom, who says, will you be reporting the China-U.S. war? And no, probably not. We'll probably be fighting in it.
We'll probably be fighting in it. And if it does happen and we're not fighting in it for some reason, I will report on it. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, Dom. Thank you so much once again for the support. And now, due to the time limitations of tonight, and considering that I have to get up really, really early in the morning to go to college tomorrow, I will only be able to address 3 live chats. I'm very sorry about that. We usually address a lot more than that, but I hope you'll understand that I have to make sure I can survive, so that way we can cover tomorrow's news on the next 24 hours, and also go to college too. And so with that, what is our first live chat question?
All right, and of course, first up, we have the Morse code decoders, Rumpelstiltskin, Mark Hodges, CFA, and JP's RCs. They say the Morse code says Shaheds are called that because the guys that use them are Shishi. Oh, never mind.
Man, you're supposed to read it like, you see, the reason why shitheads are called that way because the guys who designed them are shit. Never mind.
Well,
y'all got it right. You got it right. You know what I mean? And I got to congratulate y'all once again for deciphering that Morse code message every single freaking night. I'm telling y'all are damn machines. I'm telling you. And so with that, we are moving on to the next one. Now, this one will count as the first question of the night.
Damn. Okay. Okay, now I remember something here. So real quick, I think Dom was an account that has been created for the third time, and it's the person that went berserk, I think, 3 nights back when we weren't able to get their super chat before it ended. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he went berserk again, I think this time on the viewers, so he had to go. My goodness, and we answered all of his questions, so he just couldn't help it. But anyways, up next we have a question from Brian DeLauro, who says, how many deaths do you think the Russians will have by February 24th?
I think there will probably be about 130,000, 140,000 killed by that point. And so I hope that answers that question fairly well. Also, I'm reading some things that he said. He said to Midget Hobbit, I wasn't whining. I was asking if I could make it. I was asking if I would make it. I wasn't like, answer my question, Mr. Enforcer. I command you. Okay, let me just say this real quick. I don't mean to be rude or nothing, but you can't be coming in here with that much flame, especially against us and the viewers. Like, we usually draw the line much stronger when people get rude to viewers than to us. So you can't come in here and then be rude to us and then cuss out viewers too, because then we're going to get rid of you for sure. And if you come back and you let it be known that you're back and you're that person, we will get you again. We don't have people coming in here being disrespectful to us or anybody watching. That nobody comes in here to get into a blood bowl with you. I don't know, like to be honest, I don't know if this guy is like psychotic or something, because this is his third time back and now he's cussing out the viewers as well. But dude, just give up. Like, no one wants your crazy self around. No one wants to be harassed by you in the middle of a show. Not me, not the viewers, not nobody. And so with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
All right, and this one goes to Arfkey78, who says, Enforcer, do you think it'll be a long wait before the fighter planes will go to Ukraine?
I would say yes. In terms of like months, yes, I would say so. It's probably at least going to be 3 to 4 months, and then we may see that they're finally sent, or it may even be longer than that. So in context of what feels like a long time, it probably will be. And so with that, I hope we answered that question fairly well. And with that, let's get on to the final last question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Sue B, who says, do the Allies have military equipment that can withstand extreme cold, as in negative 65 degrees?
I don't think we have any equipment that can survive those kinds of extremes. I don't think anyone has any kind of equipment that is just mass-produced that can survive extremes like that. So I would have to say no. Neither the Russians nor us have anything that can handle those kind of temperatures, because... did they say negative 65 Celsius?
I think Fahrenheit.
Negative 65 Fahrenheit to Celsius. That is negative 53 degrees Celsius. I don't think anything could survive those kinds of temperatures for a long duration of time. That's like temperatures you would find in Antarctica or something similar. And so with that, I hope that does address that question fairly well. And it is now time for us to end tonight's stream. I thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and also comment. We run the stream every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. And I thank y'all so much once again for watching. It's been a high honor to know that so many of y'all find this channel to be worthwhile to watch in terms of its news, and I hope y'all found something worth watching tonight. And so with that, thank y'all so much once again for the support. I hope I've been able to address all of y'all's questions fairly well, and also the few live chats we were able to get to as well tonight. And I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war. Good night, good luck, take care, and I'll see y'all then. And also, Slava Ukraini.
And...
Yeehaw!
Yes. The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького